WPXI presents the Black and Gold Zone inside the NFL Draft in Pittsburgh with Channel 11 Sports Director Jenna Harner and Shelby Cassesi.
Hello and welcome inside Steelers headquarters. We are here getting you set with a special podcast, 3 hours of Steelers talk as we get you ready for round one of the NFL draft right here in Pittsburgh. I'm Jenna Harner. She is Shelby Cassesi. Shelby, it's really fun to get to be here in a setting like this. We don't often get to just sit and really dive into everything that's going to be coming up with the Steelers, and we have a whole lot coming everybody's way for the next 3 hours here.
Yeah, this is not a new setup to either of us, but it's a new setup doing this together. So
yes.
I'm very excited. As you can see, we are here so early in the day. The lights are not even on in the Steelers indoor facility yet, but we have our fabulous crew, Cam and Paul, that set up all of our studio here, our lighting. So we are good to go for the next 3 hours talking about the draft.
We're set and ready, and the excitement is so incredibly apparent. I think that's been kind of such a fun part of all the buildup. You know, we found out, of course, a couple of years ago the draft was coming to Pittsburgh, and it felt so far away. It felt like, okay, we're waiting for it to get here. We're waiting for something to finally happen, and the build out over the last couple months has been incredible, seeing the stage being built. Pittsburgh is feeling the excitement even more than they already do for draft night.
And you can feel the buzz building. One of the things that was so interesting, I was at the prospect clinic yesterday, so all the prospects that are here in town were at Hazelwood Green Park doing a clinic alongside Special Olympics, and that's really the first chance we get to talk to a lot of these prospects in town. And it was so funny to go person to person and ask their take on Pittsburgh, what they've thought so far. And for a lot of them, for most of them, it was their first time in Pittsburgh, and they all kind of had the traditional Pittsburgh first-time visitor experience where they thought, you know, I wasn't sure what to expect. You hear certain things, these old takes about the city, but showing up here, coming out of the tunnels to see a lot of the scenery here, everyone was very impressed. So I think Pittsburgh has really gotten itself ready in a big way. They had a dry run with the U.S. Open kind of last year.
Yeah.
So I think they're really ready, and we've seen through our coverage that a lot of our news reporters are doing how excited everyone is.
And that's just such a fun part about all of this, because obviously, you know, this is such a life-changing event for all of these players, the ones that are, of course, here, the ones that are, of course, at home. They know that their lives are about to change. They're going to get drafted to an NFL team. There's going to be so much excitement ahead. They're going to dive right into rookie mini camp, then the OTAs, veteran or voluntary or involuntary. There's so many types of mini camps. There truly are.
And
it's hard to keep track of.
2.5 months.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And then the little break before training camp. So all of these guys are getting ready for a big ramp up ahead. But this is such an opportunity for fans to get to come see their teams, get to experience all the incredible activations. Again, our reporting, we've been doing so much throughout these last handful of weeks and even the last years leading up as soon as this event was announced. So lots of fun things for fans and for the players. We probably should dive into talking about the Steelers. There's so many things to talk about. The Steelers picks themselves, because we'll start with round one, I guess. The Steelers tonight have the 21st overall pick. It's always been in that range. That's where my brain's going. It's like, I feel like the last handful of years has been somewhere 20 to 22, 23. So this year, the 21st overall pick. It feels like they might trade up, though. There could be some moves in the first round because, of course, the Steelers have 12 draft picks throughout this draft. You don't really feel like they're going to use all 12 of those just based on roster construction and how many players, truthfully, you can draft to keep the 53-man real roster and then, of course, the 90-man practice squad. But I do get a little bit of a sense it feels like there might be some moves tonight.
I think there very well could be, and I think you get that sense perhaps throughout the entire round.
Yeah.
It's not just the Steelers, but I think there's an overall sense that there could be a lot of movements among several teams. But Omar Khan, the man does not reveal much, understandably so, in these months and weeks leading up to the draft. But one thing he does continue to say is how much these 12 picks give the Steelers flexibility. He keeps using that word, flexibility. So I think they realize they have the option to move around a little bit tonight, but if their guy falls to 21, then obviously they're going to be in a good position. One of the things I always laugh about covering this team, each year we talk to Omar Khan, and of course, aside from this year, Mike Tomlin, now Mike McCarthy. We talk to them the week of the draft, and each year that we've heard from Omar Khan when he's orchestrating this as a Steelers GM, he said, I wish the draft were here. I just wish it was today. I wish we could start. I feel like he says that every year, including this year. And so I They feel like they're in a good position. One sort of knock against the Steelers trading some of these picks. Mike McCarthy did make it a point to say, you know, I am a big believer drafting and developing is the main way you construct your roster. I would love to have 10, 12, 14 picks in the draft this weekend. So he seems to be a really big believer in doing things that way. And so he might be a little bit more hesitant to part ways with some of these picks, but we'll talk about it in depth. But there are plenty of scenarios where we could envision the Steelers moving up, especially ahead of the Ravens. I know we'll talk about that a little bit, to get their guy if they need to. And Omar Khan has done that in the past.
Yeah, let's take a look at the picks the Steelers have, because, again, lots of draft capital. This, of course, was a year that we thought, okay, the start of the season, we know the Steelers probably coming in this draft are going to need a quarterback. It was thought Aaron Rodgers was going to be the one-year bridge. This quarterback class did not pan out. And it's unfortunate because of all of the capital the Steelers had. You really got the sense, hey, they're going to be able to make this move, trade up in the first round, somewhere into that top 10 range, maybe even a little bit higher, and pick a quarterback. That likely is not going to happen. We'll dive into that a little bit more. But the picks that they have, of course, coming in, they have one tonight, the 21st overall pick. That could be an option for some moving up. Day 2 tomorrow, rounds 2 and 3. They have 4 picks. They have the 53rd overall pick in the second round, then those 3 third-round picks, and that's really where things get kind of interesting to me on that. Then we'll just keep running down the rest of the line. They have 2 fourth-round picks on Saturday in rounds 4, 1 fifth-round pick, a 6th, and 3 7ths. So again, 12 total picks. Feels like a lot, but again, I feel like we're going to see some maneuvering. We know how much Omar Khan and this front office really like to swing deals. That was actually Omar Khan's first job when he was in the Steelers front office under Bill Cowher, when he was working with all of these guys. He was the trade guy. He was the trade value guy where, you know, they would come to him and say, hey, Omar, we're looking to move up X amount of spots. Call the Bills, get a deal going here. So this is Omar's area, one of his areas of expertise, I should say. So I think that's going to be something that we come to know is the way he wheels and deals, and I think we're going to see a lot more of that too.
And he absolutely set that precedent his very first draft as a general manager of the Steelers, trading up to get Broderick Jones, his very first move in that position. So we could definitely see that happening. One of the other things that is interesting about the number of picks they have is how it reflects the top 30 visits that we saw. Because I feel like in years past, we have seen the Steelers utilize the top 30 visits to bring in some higher profile guys, a number overwhelmingly of players who you could reasonably see them either taking at their current first round position or perhaps trading up for. This year, the top 30 visits were very heavily mid to late round guys, and that reflects a lot of what we're seeing in these picks. They used a lot of those visits to talk to some of those guys, and we talked about that in the pre-draft press conference earlier this week, which I think we're going to be playing here, at least a portion of it coming up, was the way they kind of went about these visits, because it is almost unprecedented for the Steelers to utilize their first-round pick on someone who they did not have a top 30 visit with. But it's kind of in position that we could see that tonight. And someone asked, you know, is that a smokescreen that you're utilizing these top 30 visits to bring in these mid to late round picks? And they said, we're using these picks to talk to guys that we could envision drafting. It is, we bring them in for a number of reasons, but a smokescreen isn't one of them. So I think that's I think the Steelers' offseason approach in general has been very interesting and differed a little bit from what we've seen in years past.
And that's been interesting, too, because of the way that, of course, Mike McCarthy had to get brought up to speed. And I think that's something that Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy mentioned earlier this week, was just the fact that it is a little bit different because of they weren't late in the process, but when you hire a new coach, there is that factor of getting assimilated, getting Mike McCarthy into what's going on. Hey, here's where we're looking. Here's the guys. The scouting office department has really targeted and honed in and said, hey, we really like them. We think that they're going to be phenomenal in this aspect. So really just kind of saying, hey, we're pulling you in, you know, to use a Mike Tomlinism, jump on a moving train. But another interesting point that you brought up with the top 30 visits and all those players that came here to the Steelers facility was a lot of them were also medical checks, and that has become such a big part of what teams look to do now is, you know, they make sure these guys, hey, you know, there's a little bit of a knee or an arm injury or some sort of injury that's plaguing them, that's nagging them, and they want to be able to take a look at it and say, hey, you know, we still feel comfortable, we still feel confident. That was something that happened a few years ago with Darnell Washington and his knee injuries. That happened with Peyton Wilson and his ACL concerns. So obviously those guys are both starters now. The Steelers felt very comfortable moving forward when they drafted them when they did. So that was a big part of those top 30 visits too. Let's talk some free agency, because positions of need for the Steelers, because I think you can look at what this team did during free agency, and they did fill a lot of holes. They answered a lot of questions that we had coming in, starting with the wide receiver room. And I think that was the biggest move, bringing Michael Pittman Jr. in, trading with the Indianapolis Colts to bring him in, because that wide receiver too has been such a question mark for the last couple of seasons. It was George Pickens and everybody else, and then they bring DK Metcalf in. DK Metcalf and George Pickens are here together for all of 2 weeks, I feel like. No time at all. And then Pickens gets traded to Dallas. So the moves, the shifting there has been that just gap for the last couple of years. And now you look at this roster and say, okay, DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman Jr., you're going to want to add more, though, in the draft.
Which I'm surprised, this is a little sidebar, I'm surprised at the number of takes I see that DK Metcalf's not a true number one. Have you seen these takes
wild to me.
I feel like I see them everywhere. Now, this is on X, so I mean, take everything with a grain of salt. But there's this sort of like outside opinion that he's not a true number one. He absolutely is, to me. I mean, absolutely. He is the guy you have set here for the next 4 seasons, I believe it was. He signed a 5-year deal for at least the next 4 seasons, signed a 5-year deal coming in last year. He is the guy you're going to build this offense around. Michael Pittman adds an excellent number 2 option. But year after year, you know, we've asked Omar Khan, we've asked Mike Tomlin, who it was in the past, do you feel comfortable with your receiver room? And every kind of year they'd say, yeah, we absolutely feel comfortable. But then you'd hear behind the scenes the way they'd try to maybe find someone else. Brandon Ayuk was such a big talking point over a year ago. And it burned them. It burned them throughout the course of each season. No bigger example of that than when DK Metcalf got suspended at the end of the year last year. And the Steelers were left with really no star power, no size in their pass catching room. And then Darnell Washington went down as well. So I think finally they got the message that this was absolutely an area of need, an absolute priority to fill, that I think we'll talk about later, they'll also continue to build upon tonight
in this draft.
Or in this draft, at least.
And tonight even, too. Perhaps, seriously. I know that we've talked so much about, we'll dive in more. I feel like we're, we're really excited to talk about what's going to happen tonight. But yes, I do think drafting a wide receiver tonight is going to be something that if the board falls in the right way, the Steelers will very much look to do. We'll give our picks later, don't you worry.
We
have them. We're ready to go. We're warmed up there. But the Steelers also addressing cornerback and safety as well. So they brought in 2 defensive backs, Jamel Dean from the Bucks, which I think is a really solid move. I also think that doesn't preclude the Steelers from drafting a cornerback in this draft, especially with depth. But Jamel Dean's a really solid guy that's going to be opposite Joey Porter Jr. And I mean, Joey Porter Jr. came into his own last year. I think last year was really that year where, we go back, not last season, but the end of the previous season. And we all remember on Hard Knocks, he's sitting in then DB's coach Grady Brown's office saying, I want to get better. What can I do? And I remember that very serious conversation. And we talked with him all off season, hey, you said this message. What do you want to do? How do you want to get better? What are your goals? And I think he took massive steps forward. So he's really that true cornerback 1 on this team. But I do think him and Dean across from each other are going to be very solid, a very solid tandem. Yeah, and I remember talking to Joey Porter Jr. one-on-one ahead of the Thursday Night Bengals game, which definitely was not his best performance. But essentially the gist of the conversation was that he had some injury issues to start the year, but really began to come into his own a bit more toward that middle portion of the year. And by the end, Omar Khan's in a position with that draft class in particular, in a very short sample size, might be Omar Khan's best, where he's in a position where, I mean, he's told us he would love to sign all those guys if he could. But some decisions will be forthcoming as their rookie deals are coming to a close here.
But you're correct. I feel the same way as you, where I think at least, if not tonight, by the end of Saturday, you're going to see some additions to that defensive back room.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a stronger unit than what we saw last year.
I completely agree. And then, too, they went out and got the hometown kid, Jaquan Brisker, who that move had been kind of rumbling about. And I know Pittsburghers love to just get so...
Hometown guy.
How can you not? I think it's just such a great thing. And I loved when the Steelers, you know, brought him in, they added him in free agency, and we got to talk to Brisker, and you could just see how excited he was to be home. It was just right in that room down the way from us in the media room where we sit here at Steelers headquarters. But it was just so cool hearing him talk about, you know, he's never, growing up as a kid, he never got to attend a Steelers game. His family, you know, they couldn't afford it when they were growing up. His first Steelers game he attends, he's going to be taking the field and playing. And I just think that's such a special moment. But I do think he adds a lot to that defensive backs room. He's a versatile guy. I know people looked at, okay, well, is he strong safety? Is he free safety? They have Deshaun Elliott, you know, all the moving pieces. They want this defensive unit to be able to rotate a little bit more and to have a little more positional flexibility. And I think Brisker brings that. So he's somebody that I think is a really good addition to this group. But again, it does feel like you can never have enough. I mean, teams never say, oh, we have too many cornerbacks, we have too many safeties. So I do think that in some way, shape, or form, as the draft continues these next 3 days here in Pittsburgh, we're going to see them look to add a defensive back in one way or another.
And this is, of course, in addition to Deshaun Elliott coming back. That was such a huge loss for that secondary last year.
Very much so.
Leadership-wise, skill-wise. And I know that I've seen on social media, he's been really focused on getting back to health, and that was a huge area of need for that. I mean, by the end of last year, you're having Jalen Ramsey move around to unnatural positions. I mean, they were really short-handed in that secondary. So you're right. I think coming into this year, it's going to be a priority to make sure that they're fully staffed and don't get so hurt by injuries. The running back room is going to be a unique, I think, look this year.
Yes.
Obviously, Kenneth Gainwell moving on, the team MVP from last year. I know the Steelers would have liked to have kept him, but ultimately he chose a different destination, probably chose some additional money. But they've added Rico Dowdle as well, 2-year, $12.25 million deal. Back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons for him. Him and Mike McCarthy were together in Dallas as well, so that's a unique fit. But you know, the running backs room is unique in the sense that you have Rico Dowdle, undrafted free agent, Jalen Warren, undrafted free agent, and Caleb Johnson, now a guy who's going to be expected to take a step up this year after having kind of a lackluster rookie season. So it's not a lot of star power, but it's one that has been so sufficient over the course of time with Jalen Warren and Kenneth Gainwell last year, Najee Harris also the year before, years prior. So I'm curious to see how Rico Dowdle assimilates into this offense. And of course, he knows Mike McCarthy well enough to, I think, make that seamless.
And I think he's going to be kind of that bruising downhill runner. He's got the burst. I think that we saw so much of that in Carolina last year, Dallas the season before. And Jalen Warren is going to take that pass catcher role that we saw in Kenneth Gainwell a little more. I think that's kind of going to be the division of labor. And then, of course, we want to see a little bit more from Caleb Johnson. Obviously, we all remember what happened week 2 in Seattle.
The kickoff situation kind of derailed his entire year, unfortunately.
And you understand why, as Mike Tomlin at the time made the decision that he did to kind of say, okay, we're scaling back his responsibilities. He has to earn back. I mean, that mistake, you can't say one play or one mistake caused a loss, but that really kind of seemed to be the catalyst for the Steelers losing that game against the Seahawks.
And under Mike Tomlin, rookies kind of began in the doghouse. You had to work your way out of the doghouse as a rookie, and then one mistake like that sends you right back in. So it just, it's unfortunate that derailed his season. But Omar Khan has said, we are looking for him to take a big step forward. It was disappointing, but we're hoping he takes a, bigger step forward this year.
And then, of course, Cameron Johnston returning. Bill Burr, the punter. I love those memes make me so happy. I very much enjoy. Obviously, he was here with the Steelers start of last season, 2 years ago. All the years seem to blend together at this point.
Was it last year?
No, I think it was 2 years ago.
Then he went to the Bills.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay,
yeah, because he had the season-ending injury right at the in game 1 of two seasons ago. So he's healthy, I mean, we know he can boom the ball too. And you need a little punter competition.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you just feel for the guy. Two gruesome injuries. But I was watching the Bills game where he got hurt again, and I just thought, oh my God, just bad luck. So, I mean, hopefully he comes back ready to compete. Feels like he will. Again, good punter competition is always good. And the Steelers need it because, you know, Corliss Waitman wasn't quite up to snuff, especially toward the end of last year. So hopefully Cam Johnston is healthy. He's the guy we've seen here in the past, and that'll be a good addition for the Steelers.
Well, we have plenty more to talk about. We're just getting started here on Inside the Draft. We are going to take a quick break. When we come back, you're going to hear from new Steelers head coach Mike McCarthy as he prepares for this draft, and we're going to dive into more of some of the positions the Steelers are going to look to add to their roster throughout the weekend. Stick with us on Inside the Draft.
I'm Channel 11 Morning News anchor Liz Kilmer. Paying for food, transportation, and housing, it all adds up. And taking care of your family can feel harder than ever. But that's why we have consumer advisor Clark Howard. Clark knows the market, has the deals, and shares ways that you can save money. He also alerts you to scams so you don't get ripped off. Clark Howard helps you save more, spend less, and avoid scams on Channel 11 Morning News.
First thing when you wake up, Channel 11 Morning News is live to get you ready for the day.
Good morning. Thanks so much for watching.
4:30 to 7 a.m. every weekday. Jennifer Tomazik and Liz Kilmer constantly update breaking and local news.
We are starting the morning with breaking news.
Scott Harbaugh's forecast helps you plan your day. Tricia Pittman gets you around traffic backups. And Clark Howard saves you money.
Now this is a great deal.
Get ready for the day with Channel 11 Morning News. Channel 11 News, live at 4, 5, and 6. The biggest local stories from neighborhood to neighborhood, impacting you the most. Breaking news. First, the experienced team asking tough questions, digging for answers, and getting the facts to keep you informed and safe. Every day, count on Channel 11 News at 4, 5, and 6.
When weather's on the way, Severe Weather Team 11's priority is to keep you safe. Storms can bring heavy rain, hail, and strong winds, so it's important for us to get it right. Our experienced team tracks the specific timing of storms and potential impact where you live. With us, when it's urgent, you will know, and we'll constantly keep you updated.
When weather is on the way, count on Severe Weather Team 11 on Channel 11 News.
And welcome back to Inside the Draft. I'm Jenna Harner. She's Shelby Cassesi, and we're here for the next couple of hours getting you set for the Steelers NFL Draft. Or I should say the NFL Draft featuring the Steelers right here in Pittsburgh. Although it does feel like the Steelers NFL Draft considering the fact that there's so many people coming to Pittsburgh for this massive event this weekend.
I love the coverage that you were doing on the event prior to. I feel like the nuns on TikTok. Have you seen them? And sister, you're so good at that. That's going to be us this entire time. It is going to be us this weekend. But I love the coverage you did leading up to the event because you had talked to Visit Pittsburgh and a couple of other of those entities about how one of the main reasons that the draft came here is how close it is to these other drivable football towns and how that's just going to draw people in.
The numbers were amazing. I believe it was like 9 professional teams, 16 college markets are within driving distance, like 6 hours or so of Pittsburgh. I mean, when you think about it too, it's okay. All the AFC North teams, because we drive there every week. All the time. Indianapolis, Baltimore, of course, Baltimore, Buffalo. I think now New York, both teams, DC. So lots of fans flocking on Pittsburgh flocking onto Pittsburgh this weekend. I loved Kara Sapido, one of our reporters, had a story where she was at the airport yesterday and she was showing all of the people that were coming in, and it was so cool seeing everybody in their gear. You had Kansas City fans in their jackets and Dallas Cowboy fans in their big tall cowboy hats. You know, people, I forget because we're so used to being, you know, here here on draft day and focused on, okay, what moves are the Steelers making? But this is such a big fan event, and I think Pittsburgh's going to absolutely show up and show out for this, and we've kind of already seen that.
We always get such great reviews here in Pittsburgh about the different events. Like we talked about the U.S. Open last year, and I remember talking to a realtor ahead of the U.S. Open. We were just doing a story on housing rentals and the Airbnb situation, and he was like, after events like this, we often see people, the numbers bump up a little bit on the people that move to Pittsburgh because it's kind of their first taste of the city. Again, we kind of talked about, how there's maybe one old opinion about Pittsburgh, and then people come here and realize how nice it is. And you kind of see a little bump in the real estate when people come here after big events like this. So it could be very similar here for the draft.
I could very much see that. And it was funny, too. I got married in Pittsburgh. I'm not from here originally. I got married here a couple years ago. And that was like the reaction of all of my friends and family that had never visited Pittsburgh before.
Yeah.
They were like, oh, this is Pittsburgh? This is so beautiful. I know you said, too, some of the draft prospects were saying that it was kind of like, we didn't realize this is what Pittsburgh is, but my gosh, it's beautiful, and there's the bridges. I think people are more than pleasantly surprised when they come to Pittsburgh. They don't expect half of the things that we have here, and it's a ball. It's a blast.
I'm excited for the weekend.
It's going to be a lot of fun. You know who's also excited for the weekend? Steelers front office.
They are.
They're very excited.
Just across the parking lot from where we're sitting right now. I know you saw Omar heading into the building today.
I was walking in, scanning in with security, and a little further ahead of me, it was Omar Khan and Will Howard in a little bit of an interesting conversation.
Why not? A random Will Howard sighting as well.
Love it. But you could see Omar Khan. I mean, he's always very, calm, cool, collected type style, and I think that he's prepared for tonight. I mean, this has been, a long process for the Steelers. It isn't just like all of a sudden tonight they're like, oh, we're getting ready, getting into action. I mean, this has been, the scouting department has been working for multiple years throughout the year. When they go out, when the Steelers travel on the road, usually a member of that scouting department is seeing some game out in that direction. So if they're in LA, maybe going to USC to see Makai Lemon perform or something in that realm. So they're constantly going. They're putting the big board together, getting all set for all their picks tonight. But earlier this week, you were here. I feel like we've been here a lot this week.
We live here.
We live here now.
This time of year.
But earlier this week, you were here, and we got to hear from Omar Khan, new head coach Mike McCarthy, as part of their pre-draft press conference. And we'll share some of that conversation with you guys right now.
Great to see you guys. Appreciate you guys being here. I wanted to start off by just reiterating how excited we all are about the draft being here in Pittsburgh. It's long overdue, and I know personally, I always tell people how great the region is and how great the people are here in the community, and it's exciting that there's a lot of them are going to experience it this week, and so excited, and I'm sure. We're going to make the NFL proud here in Pittsburgh. So a couple of things I want to touch base on before we take any questions. On Aaron, I know you guys are going to ask me on Aaron. We've had some great communication with Aaron, and nothing's changed, but it's all been positive and good. And, I said this to you guys in March when we met. He knows how we feel about him, and, we know how he feels about us. And so also on Broderick, I know you guys will ask me about Broderick. Nothing's changed with Broderick. He's still working to try to get back to where he needs to be. Nothing's changed there, and no new information since we last spoke in March. I also want to take a moment to just really thank Coach McCarthy and his staff for all the hard work they put into this draft process. This has been really difficult for them. I'm sure it's a lot. We haven't done this in a long time, but just seeing all that it's taken for them to get ready to get to this point from the football standpoint, and obviously some personal stuff with getting acclimated to Pittsburgh, and they've done a tremendous job, and I've put a lot on their plate over the last 6 weeks, and really proud about our process and how it came together, and obviously also like to thank my staff. Can't say enough about my scouting staff. They're second to none in my eyes, and they've really worked hard and love where we're at. Obviously, we got 12 picks. I don't know, come Saturday when I meet with you guys, don't know where we'll end up. Maybe we have 10, maybe we have 14, don't know. But having the 12 picks gives us a lot of flexibility and a lot of opportunities, some things, and, and we'll see where it goes. But Coach.
Thank you, Omar. I think the biggest thing for us as a coaching staff, it's been great to get acclimated here in Pittsburgh. The draft process has been a lot of fun, frankly, for us. Just the involvement. I think the normal process that I've been exposed to is, you have profiles and you come together, and obviously, the profiles that have been here for decades is something that we'll continue to adhere to. So that was, I thought we got off to a really good start there. The coaches have, kind of done double time with the draft process, connecting with the personnel staff. I've really enjoyed Omar and his staff and the meetings that we've had. But the second part is, we've been able to, get ready for our players. We've had 2 weeks, and today we've had a lot of excellent work. I really appreciate the time and energy and the effort the players have put into the voluntary work. Because, end of the day, football's football. Everybody talks about it a little differently. Common language is very important, and it takes time in the beginning. It's always, it's more monotonous and tedious in those first months, and then I really applaud our players for being here and taking advantage of the opportunity to connect. And lastly, I think anytime Western Pennsylvania has a chance to show itself off, it's a great thing. So I know personally, just through family and friends, and what the draft will bring to our great city, and to show it off, and it'll be exciting. I had a chance to experience it for a day last year, and this is going to be awesome. So I'm definitely excited for the week and for Pittsburgh.
All right, questions? Right, this is third team you've gone through the draft process with. Is the formula, the execution, the process similar, different? How does it differ here than others?
I mean, a lot of similarities, but not the same. I think I could really probably say that about, how you practice too. So I mean, I think those are the things you always work through, and you appreciate what's here because of the continued success of the Pittsburgh Steelers for the last 50 years, 70 years, 76 years, somewhere in there. But so I think that is important. Because I don't think you have the time or the energy, and I don't think it's energy well spent when you throw the baby out with the bathwater. So I think it's important to have an understanding of what's here, and obviously with Omar and our familiarity. So I thought it was pretty smooth the way it transitioned. But yes, every draft situation has been a little different because it has always stayed the same. Obviously in the first. In the second situations that are in, but I really like the way the coaches connected with the personnel staff, because that's a process. That's not always super smooth, and sometimes it takes a little longer than you'd like. But I thought both staffs did a really good job.
That was Steelers General Manager Omar Khan and new head coach Mike McCarthy getting us set, getting us ready. Of course, they're not going to divulge much. They're not going to come out and tell us, this is who we're drafting at 21st overall, or hey, we're going to look to trade up to 15th, that type of thing. But you get a little bit of a sense from just talking with them about, hey, these are some areas of need that this team needs to address. This is what direction they might look to go when they're on the clock this weekend.
Yeah, I think I've never been on the beat for another team, but Omar Khan specifically, I think, is always keeping things. Football coaches, front office people, very paranoid, and
yes,
understandably so. A lot of people are after their information, but
they're not
keep things very close to the vest, so we don't ever anticipate any massive reveals in those press conferences. But you are at least able to get a little bit of a sense where the Steelers are headed based on their additions in free agency, based on what areas of their game lacked last year, and kind of just from process of elimination, you can kind of put on the big board where you think they're headed.
Yeah, we can dive right into that graphic. We also want to thank everyone for joining us. Again, we're live here from Steelers headquarters. You can catch us on WPXI Now, our streaming app, on YouTube as well. I know we have a lot of people tuning in, so we thank you for being here as we're breaking everything down and getting you set for the NFL draft. But let's take a look at some of those positions of need for the Steelers. Like we mentioned last segment, wide receiver does feel like such a massive position the Steelers are going to look to add in this draft. And I really think that we could see them double dipping too, getting potentially a first-round pick or maybe a second-round guy, depending on how the board shakes out. And then, like you mentioned earlier, they did bring in some of those later-round guys for those pre-draft visits. I think that could be, that's kind of a big tell for where things go.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if you just look at the Steelers roster as it stands right now, at wide receiver, you obviously have DK Metcalf, Michael Pittman Jr., Roman Wilson, and Ben Skoranek, and then it drops off a cliff. It truly. I mean, you have John Reese Plumlee on the roster, A.T. Perry, Brandon Smith, just some of the guys they have on their... It is, again, year after year of having a shortage of receivers burn you. It's a priority for sure. But we also, you know, looking at this list of players, areas of need, defensive back we've talked about. Offensive line is going to be such an interesting position group that the Steelers look at. It could be something they address tonight, but I definitely think something by the end of the day tomorrow, we're going to see some additions in that position group.
100%, especially because of the fact that, again, they lost Isaac Seumalo in free agency. There's the uncertainty surrounding Broderick Jones, his neck injury and his recovery from that injury. So I think if the Steelers potentially are going to look to add a tackle or a guard, I think that there's a chance that they could trade up tonight for a guy like Vega Ioane, who we'll talk about a lot later on. I know we'll talk about that with our good friend Chris Carter, who's going to join us momentarily. He's standing over there, actually waiting and getting excited to be part of it. We're thrilled to have him here as well. But I think they could add a guy like that. Caden Proctor, maybe, from Alabama, could be. Maybe, I don't necessarily know if he's going to go round one. I've seen mocks where he's gone in the first round, he's gone in the second round, so depending on the way that the board falls, of course. But yeah, offensive line is a problem that, I don't want to say problem, is an area the Steelers might look to address because they've spent so much draft capital over the last couple of years. They've invested so much in those guys, and that opposite side, that right side of your line and your center, of course, is very short up. So
why not round it out and have your offensive line of the future, right? Something else to talk about just briefly as we talk about the Steelers welcoming the draft here to Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh welcoming the draft here. What's so unique about this, I think, and maybe I make a bigger deal out of it than it really is, but you saw Mike McCarthy come in on that first day where he was announced as the Steelers head coach, immediately tears up at what this opportunity means to him. His parents are there. I mean, he's shouting out Greenfield and his old address and those types of things. And I think actually that won a lot of people over, seeing the emotion behind the hire here. So to have Mike McCarthy's first draft as Steelers head coach here in Pittsburgh, I wanted to know how that impacted him a little bit. So we have that question and answer here from Mike McCarthy from that press conference we just showed.
I mean, it's great. Frankly, it'll be more important to my family, you know, as far as being able to enjoy the draft and so forth. We're going to be busy. You know, I laugh because, you know, my mother asks me every year if I'm going to the draft, and I say no, I'm going to be in the draft room again for year 33. But you know, we don't go to the draft. So, but no, I think it'll be great for everybody to experience it.
I think a lot of reporters can relate to that sentiment as well, because I know heading into the draft this year, I got a lot of, what are you doing for the draft? I'm like, I'll be at Steelers.
We're at Steelers headquarters. So, we are stuck here. I don't want to say stuck in a bad way, but we are here all night. We are bringing you all the coverage all night as well, because again, you know, they'll announce the pick for the Steelers down at the draft, and then I'll jump right out and be on TV saying, hey, this is who they've selected. We'll bring you that immediately, and then you'll be in a press conference. Omar Khan and Mike McCarthy come out in the media room that we're in the Steelers facility and say, hey, this is why we picked this player. We're so excited about him, and all of those things.
But, I mean, for as emotional as he was that day when you and I were there at Acrisure Stadium for his big announcement, it kind of seems like he's locked in. I mean, as you would expect. They're in the middle of their off-season program by now, but kind of the emotional difference from that day to today, and it's just like, I'm excited for my family. I'll be here in the war room as I am, you know, every year that I've been a head coach, and he's just looking forward to, I think, like Omar, getting the draft underway and getting the next, his first class of Steelers in here.
I had to love at the Hazelwood Green event that you were at the other day when they released that new field. All the prospects were there too when they unveiled, I should say, the new field. Mike McCarthy's wearing a green field hat, as he should. A true insert at heart, as he should.
He did say also in that press conference, someone asked him about, you know, are there any like funny anecdotes? And he said he's going to have to learn to get through his accent a little bit when calling plays. He's learned that. It's his first time calling plays here, and he said some of the words come out sounding a little bit the same, so he's going to have to get through his accent a little bit there. So all the things that Pittsburghers are used to having to do.
100%, yeah. Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Chris Carter from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette and the Locked On Steelers podcast joins us. We're going to dive deeper into this draft and who he potentially thinks the Steelers are going to take tonight. Don't go anywhere. This is Inside the Draft, live from Steelers headquarters.
I'm Channel 11 Morning News anchor Liz Kilmer. Paying for food, transportation, and housing, it all adds up. And taking care of your family can feel harder than ever. But that's why we have consumer advisor Clark Howard. Clark knows the market, has the deals, and shares ways that you can save money. He also alerts you to scams so you don't get ripped off. Clark Howard helps you save more, spend less, and avoid scams on Channel 11 Morning News.
First thing when you wake up, Channel 11 Morning News is live to get you ready for the day.
Good morning. Thanks so much for watching.
4:30 to 7 a.m. every weekday. Jennifer Tomazik and Liz Kilmer constantly update breaking and local news.
We are starting the morning with breaking news.
Scott Harbaugh's forecast helps you plan your day. Tricia Pittman gets you around traffic backups. And Clark Howard saves you money.
Now this is a great deal.
Get ready for the day with Channel 11 Morning News. Channel 11 News, live at 4, 5, and 6. The biggest local stories from neighborhood to neighborhood, impacting you the most. Breaking news. First, the experienced team asking tough questions, digging for answers, and getting the facts to keep you informed and safe. Every day, count on Channel 11 News at 4, 5, and 6.
When weather's on the way, Severe Weather Team 11's priority is to keep you safe. Storms can bring heavy rain, hail, and strong winds, so it's important for us to get it right. Our experienced team tracks the specific timing of storms and potential impact where you live. With us, when it's urgent, you will know, and we'll constantly keep you updated.
When weather is on the way, count on Severe Weather Team 11 on Channel 11 News.
And welcome back to Inside the Draft. I'm Jenna Harner, she's Shelby Cassesi, and we are getting our good friend Chris Carter ready for action. Have to make you look great for television, as you always do.
I can't look as great as y'all.
Oh, that is so sweet of you. Thank you. Thank you for being here and for joining us. Steelers are drafting tonight. It's finally here. Are you thrilled to not be doing mock drafts anymore? Do you want to do one final one before we...
love a mock draft.
I love mock drafts. Like, I know people get tired of them, but like when you analyze this stuff and you live in just all the data and information, it's fun to examine all the different ways that things could happen. Where could trades happen? Where could this happen? What if this team wants to go with this position that you didn't plan them to? That's the point of mock drafts. It's not to be right. It's to exercise like, hey, here's the countless infinite scenarios that could happen. And this is, and from, I think what's good from being a team perspective, we're simply looking at it through the Steelers lens, whereas the national people, they got to predict where everybody's going. So this is where the fun is. Now we can say, hey, if there's a run on receiver, do they go guard? If there's a run on guards and D tackles and receivers, do they go DB? All those different things. That's why I love mock drafts. But tonight, mock drafts are going to be done after this. This is when it begins.
I mean, will you be, in the next couple of days, probably like Monday, you're going to see some 2027
Those are off the
mock
books.
drafts out there.
Nope.
He's going to be ready.
Are you sure?
I ain't doing it. I will not be right. There will be no Post-Gazette article that says your 2027 Steelers mock draft.
You're way too early. I love that. Way too early.
Yes, it is way too early, so I'm not sure why they're out.
Yeah.
Does it feel to you this year that there just seems to be a little more uncertainty with the direction the Steelers are going to go compared to years past? I feel like there's always been, seems like, hey, they're really going to look to add an offensive lineman in this guy, and it was Broderick Jones, and then, you know, the Kenny Pickett year felt very much predicted. Does it feel different this year that there's kind of just like, there's a bunch of directions they could go tonight?
It definitely is different, because what you're seeing right now is, one, we're in the 4th year of a new front office, so they've kept the pace of what the Steelers have normally done. But now you have a new head coach, and with the new head coach, there's going to come new tendencies, new focuses. Like Andy Weidel sets the board, Omar Khan's looking at the value, but Mike McCarthy now gets to have his fingerprints in here. And so with that, we've seen an entirely new process. Normally, when I'm at the Combine, I see Steelers coaches everywhere. We didn't see any Steelers coaches in Indianapolis, which was totally bizarre. And then on the pro day schedule, normally when I'm looking for pro day reviews and I'm looking to see people who attended, okay, these coaches or these people, normally you see Mike Tomlin and Omar Khan, or back in the day, Kevin Colbert at all the big ones, Ohio State, Georgia, you know, if Penn State has a big year. But you didn't see that at any of them but like Georgia this year. And that, to me, that kind of breaks the pattern of what we've been expecting and how to see, hey, these are the players they're zeroing in on. Normally, the short list that we create as reporters of who the Steelers are going to pick, it's between were you a pre-draft visitor? Were you a top 30 visit? And were you a formal Combine interview? And were you a person who the top brass went to your pro day? If all three of those boxes check, you're most likely one of the 3 players that they're going to pick in the first round. This year, that pro day box is basically out the window because the top brass didn't go. And now you're looking at, okay, pre-draft visitors, they only brought in so many real first-round prospects, and that's very intriguing.
Well, and Omar Khan was asked about that earlier in the week, like, hey, your pro day circuit was a bit lesser attended than what we're used to seeing, and he kind of just chalked it up to, well, yeah, we were doing a coaching transition and the scheduling, so that kind of felt maybe just like a blanket situation, but it was very. What do you attribute that change to? Because it is so different than what we've seen, not just during Omar Khan's reign as the general manager, but years predating him.
Yeah, so I think one thing Omar and Mike kind of solidified on Monday when we talked to them, he said, like, hey, that's not what happened this year won't always happen. Like, one thing I did hear was that the Steelers coaches, especially when that coaching staff was assembled, mind you, Mike McCarthy was hired like the first day of the Senior Bowl. That first press conference.
Right.
So like the Senior Bowl, that's historically when Mike Tomlin's there and he's being like, you
faces.
Go at it. Right. You're 2 guys I really like.
That's our backers. Go.
So like this jumbled the entire process, and so during the Combine, I believe the reason why you didn't see the coaches out there is because they were probably putting together their playbook. They were probably thinking, hey, okay, this is how we want to operate. These are the dynamics that how we're going to coach. This is how I see how practices should go later this year. This is how we want to do this. These are the players we want to prioritize. There's countless things that when you have a whole new coaching staff, and Omar Khan, Art Rooney, Andy Weidel, they made it clear with how they operated. They said, hey, we're doing basically a clean slate. If Mike McCarthy doesn't want you here, you ain't going to be part of it. And that's even different than Mike Tomlin, who had to keep Bruce Arians, Dick LeBeau, and a lot of Bill Cowher's old staff. And so now you're going to see all of these new changes, which is going to force these guys to have to work more internally on their coaching and on those aspects. So it takes them away from the draft stuff. But I anticipate next year you're going to see them much more involved with the draft process.
Let's talk receiver, because I think since you've been starting mock drafts, since we've all been having conversations since, okay, the page turned at the end of the season, they hired Mike McCarthy, then it was, let's take a look at what the Steelers might do throughout the draft process. This has always felt to me like a big move they're going to make, and I still, depending on how the board shakes out, and I know I keep saying that as kind of a caveat, but depending on how the board shakes out, I truly feel like they're going receiver in the first round tonight.
I'm right with you. I think that is the move that makes the most sense. I know that they traded for Michael Pittman and they traded for DK Metcalf last year, but both of those guys are top 20 wide receivers. Neither are going to be in the top 10 conversation, the elite receiver conversation. This is their chance to take their stab at who they think will be an elite receiver in a few years, which is why I really think the Steelers are on alert to be in a trade-up position. I did a study in the Post-Gazette just last week where I looked at all of the last 25 NFL drafts, and in the last 6 years, we have seen teams drafting receiver higher than ever before, and also with higher hit rates. 50% of the receivers drafted overall in the last 6 years have gone on in the first round have gone on to have 1,000-yard seasons already. That matches the entire 7 years before that, and those guys have had full careers by then. We're talking about rookie receivers, second receivers who are still building their careers, Marvin Harrison Jr., guys that were just drafted last year that haven't had a chance to even have a really big season with a good team yet. Receivers going faster, and the NFL teams are getting better at drafting them. If the Steelers want their true elite wide receiver who can pair in between these two vets, they need to go get them in this draft class. And I think waiting at 21, you could get Omar Cooper, who I really like and I think would be a great fit. But if you want, and I think he's a premium prospect, but an elite prospect, a Makai Lemon, a Jordan Tyson, if they fall to that 11 to 13 range, Omar Khan needs to be on the phone, ready to trade with the Dolphins at 11, the Cowboys at 12, or the Rams at 13. Because in my opinion, you have to get ahead of the Ravens at 14. Because if Ioane goes before 14, they are taking a wide receiver, and you don't want to make that price even higher by waiting too long.
And you talk about the top 30 list this year being a lot of mid to late round picks. Makai Lemon was one of those few first-round top 30 visits. So maybe a little bit of a tip of the hand there, but again, it's been so different. Looking beyond tonight, what position group in the Steelers' areas of need? So we're thinking receiver, and we've talked about a potential for double dipping at wide receiver at some point this weekend. Wide receiver, defensive back, offensive line. Which of those position groups seems deepest to you that you could see the Steelers saying, okay, we like some of the top prospects in that position group, but we also feel there's good value that we will be able to get tomorrow, and we'll just wait on that?
I feel like DB is that special group because this is a really deep defensive back class. And I think the uniqueness that the Steelers are in right now is because of the defensive backs they've assembled, they have versatility. Jalen Ramsey can be your slot next year, or he could be one of your deep safeties. You've got Jaquan Brisker now, who I think would be a good starter. You're getting back to Sean Elliott, so you feel cool at the safety position. At slot, you have Ramsey or Eccles. To me, that means, okay, you don't want to go for a slot corner in the first round. And maybe if an extreme situation, if Caleb Downs or Dylan Thieneman are in a place where you feel like trading up for them, then you go get your safety. But I like these DBs on day 2. Keontae Scott out of Miami, one of my personal favorites. D'Angelo Pons out of Indiana, one of the best slot corners in this draft. A.J. Halsey out of LSU, one of their top 30 visits was Treydon Stukes. I love Treydon Stukes. He can play slot corner and free safety, and I think that's what they're looking for, is one more flexible guy that they can say, hey, you're a rookie, but we want you being flexible with Jalen Ramsey and the safety so that we can move you around. So DB is the position I feel like they can wait until day 2 and find several really good options.
We've talked trade up, and we know how much draft capital the Steelers have. I think that was something we mentioned earlier in the show, the fact that this was supposed to be the draft, that they were going to come in, get their franchise quarterback of the future. There was so much hope with what this quarterback's class was going to be coming out of college. Not the case, obviously, this year. So they do have a ton of capital that they can use to move in different ways. And you talked about potentially trading up for a receiver. Could we potentially see them trade up for an offensive lineman tonight, knowing what is missing right now with losing Isaac Seumalo and just the uncertainty with Broderick Jones and his recovery?
The only way I see it is for Ioane, Venga Ioane out of Penn State. He is a really great talent. I did a breakdown on him just for Monday for the Post-Gazette where I included film. This guy is the best pass protection guard in the draft. And he doesn't finish it as a run blocker, but he's so physical that he is nasty. And you're like, that's going to come very soon for him. But I mean, at Penn State, he had to protect Drew Aller, and that was his #1 job, was keep our quarterback upright. And he did. He has not allowed a sack in 2 years.
Wow.
So like, that's how elite he is. I think that he is this year's David DeCastro for the Pittsburgh Steelers, where he is the guy. I have a hard time seeing Ioane get past 14 because the Ravens.
Right, that's who wants him.
They want a guard. I mean, it's kind of come out from the front office. They feel like Daniel Faalele, what their left guard, was the guy that knocked them out of the playoffs because he gave up pressure so much on Lamar Jackson. So now you get the best pass protecting guard in college football, plug him into your offense, and now you're feeling more solidified up front. So if the Steelers want to trade up, that spot to me is right ahead of the Ravens at 14. I think the Rams are an interesting trading partner, and I wrote about this morning for the Post-Gazette. The Rams have picks in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd rounds, but between the 93rd pick in the draft and the 207th pick in the draft, they don't have any picks. So if I'm the Rams and I'm thinking, hey, we may like this guy who's going to go a little bit later, let's pick up some, let's maybe swap picks with the Steelers in the 2nd, so we'll move up a few spots in the 2nd, and then let's get one of those 3rd round picks at 76 or 85. Now we have a fuller draft class, and we're only giving up about 8 spots in the draft, and so if you're the Steelers, you're moving back in the second, you're giving up a third, but you still have 4 picks in the top 100, and now you get that elite guard that you want, and then you could be hungry for a wide receiver on day 2.
And I would say I love the video that came out earlier this season of Ioane. I don't know if you guys remember it, but it was at Ohio State, yeah, and there was an equipment staffer pushing a cart up a hill, and they were struggling a little bit, and without even saying anything, without even doing, like, just, you could see this is exactly who the type of player in person that Vanga Ioane is. He hopped over the barrier and just helped this equipment staffer push this cart up the hill, and it just speaks to his character again. But the Steelers are looking to bring in guys of that character.
Yeah. It's such a great niche NFL drama as well, to think that the Steelers are after a guy who the Ravens are sitting right in the middle of this round, ready to pick. Will they trade up to kind of, you're trying to avoid losing him, number one, but losing him to your biggest divisional rival as well. It'll be very, we love the high drama in the NFL, so that's definitely some high drama on draft night. Quarterback is going to be, you know, Aaron Rodgers' name is going to come up tonight in all of the draft broadcasts. We're going to talk about him because it is still such an area of question. The number of mock drafts I saw with Ty Simpson heading to the Steelers at 21 was outrageous.
Yeah, I don't see
that happening.
I don't see it.
I don't think you see it. Either of you see it happening. But where do you get the sense that the Steelers could have? They do need to add a quarterback of some kind, or they likely will. Where do you see that happening for them?
Day 3. I even think that the people that are saying Drew Aller or Carson Beck on day 2, I think are a little overeager.
Okay. Yeah.
Day 2, here's my thing. A complete draft for the Steelers is wide receiver, guard, playmaker DB, nose tackle. Accomplish those 4 things, and then all of a sudden you're sitting there saying, hey, our roster is so much more built out. You still need a 3rd tight end, maybe you want a linebacker, and eventually quarterback, but those 4 things are in really good position. There's premium value, I think, in rounds 1 through 3. Quarterback, do you really need a quarterback in this draft class that you think is a backup quarterback? And I know that there's some people that think you always draft quarterbacks because you never know, but you don't draft quarterbacks that you know are backups. And to me, Drew Aller, Carson Beck, anybody not named Fernando Mendoza, even Ty Simpson, is a backup quarterback in my eyes. And so if I'm operating from, I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, this is how I perceive, why do I need to draft another backup quarterback when I have Mason Rudolph and Will Howard already, when I can get a potential starting nose tackle so that Keanu Benton can play in the 3-tech, or a starting guard so that we can replace Isaac Seumalo, a playmaker wide receiver to fill that out, or again, a slot corner, a safety. Those are all really good positions you can get. You draft a quarterback early, you're going to most likely get one of those positions you need right now and can get a really good value for, and you're picking all of a sudden much later for a quarterback that, again, you know you're not going to be using.
Yeah, and I think something that's very interesting, and we talked about the way the 2026 draft class for quarterbacks fell apart throughout the course of the college football season. But you got the sense, being around this team, that even before that happened, there was a lot of intrigue about the 2026 quarterback class, but there is a lot to like about next year's draft class. So how do you see that playing out in regards to the Steelers next year, that they could be playing the long game here a little bit more?
They absolutely are. I mean, it seems like a lot of teams are hoarding their 2027 picks right now. And that's why I think it could be really tricky for the Steelers as well. Can they get 2027 picks in some of the trades that they do tonight and tomorrow? Because if they can, that's going to help them with that long term. They don't have the same comp picks that came back to help them this year, so that's going to be interesting. I still think they can trade up next year and get their quarterback without having a ton of picks. I think they can, if they hit on their picks this year, they can sell the farm a bit next year. But next year, you're looking at a guy we knew wouldn't go to the draft this year, Arch Manning. Everyone's talking about him. But what about Julian Sain out of Ohio State? What about Dante Moore, who stayed back in Oregon? What about Lenore Sellers, who stayed back in South Carolina? And there's a number of other guys that are coming up, much like Fernando Mendoza was seen as maybe the 5th best quarterback at the start of this season. Now he's number 1. Things changed so drastically. Like, at the start of the year, people thought Garrett Nussmeier, he's going to be your number 1 quarterback. You're lucky if he's going to be drafted in the 3rd round. So to me, be patient, still wait, but next year, and this is my rule. Yeah, it's funny. I was sitting here last year. People say, Chris, what if 2026 isn't the quarterback draft class? Don't pick a bad quarterback, because that's what got you Kenny Pickett.
And look at where things are now. They're still searching for answers, still looking for questions. Before we let you go, we're putting you on the spot. What are the Steelers doing tonight Are they staying at 21st overall? Are they trading up? Are they trading back? And who are they selecting?
Okay, I'm not gonna go on the all what if chart, but I will say I believe as if you get to a point where Makai Lemon is the last top 3 receiver, which includes Carnell Tate, Makai Lemon, and Jordan Tyson. If he's sitting there at the 11 range, and you're seeing him and Ioane start to go down, and you get to 13, and it's just Makai Lemon or Ioane, I think that's where you see the Steelers say, we're paying the premium. Rams will pay what you need. 13, trade up, get Makai Lemon, get your wide receiver, or if Lemon's gone, they're getting Ioane because they want that premium pick, I think, this year. They've got 12 draft picks. If you pick all 12 players with those 12 draft picks, there's about 6 of those guys you know you're cutting at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Would you rather have 6 guys you know you're going to cut, or would you rather have a superstar in your team and a really and the best draft pick that you've had in years, and would be the best draft pick that they've had since Omar Khan's taken over? So for me, trade up 13, Makai Lemon, Venga Ioane. That is going to be the move tonight, in my opinion, if the board falls the way I think it will.
Certainly would be an exciting evening if that was
It would. Makai Lemon's parents are also here.
Yes.
By the way, our reporter Addison Albert ran into them when she was talking with fans and just randomly. She's like, "Oh, what are you guys here for?" And they said, "Oh, well, our son could be drafted." And I'm like, they didn't lead with the fact their son could probably be drafted in the top 10, if not top 15.
Yeah.
Wild.
So everybody's here. Everybody's excited. You never know. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for your expertise. We'll be tuning in and seeing all the cool stuff that you are going to be doing tonight. We're going to take a quick break. Thank you all for staying with us live here from Steelers headquarters. When we come back on Inside the Draft, we're diving deeper into the new Steelers front office regime, how Omar Khan in this front office compares with previous front offices. Stick with us on Inside the Draft.
I'm Channel 11 Morning News anchor Liz Kilmer. Paying for food, transportation, and housing, it all adds up. And taking care of your family can feel harder than ever. But that's why we have consumer advisor Clark Howard. Clark knows the market, has the deals, and shares ways that you can save money. He also alerts you to scams so you don't get ripped off. Clark Howard helps you save more, spend less, and avoid scams on Channel 11 Morning News.
First thing when you wake up, Channel 11 Morning News is live to get you ready for the day.
Good morning. Thanks so much for watching.
4:30 to 7 a.m. every weekday. Jennifer Tomazik and Liz Kilmer constantly update breaking and local news.
We are starting the morning with breaking news.
Scott Harbaugh's forecast helps you plan your day. Tricia Pittman gets you around traffic backups. And Clark Howard saves you money.
Now this is a great deal.
Get ready for the day with Channel 11 Morning News. Channel 11 News, live at 4, 5, and 6. The biggest local stories from neighborhood to neighborhood, impacting you the most. Breaking news. First, the experienced team asking tough questions, digging for answers, and getting the facts to keep you informed and safe. Every day, count on Channel 11 News at 4, 5, and 6.
When weather's on the way, Severe Weather Team 11's priority is to keep you safe. Storms can bring heavy rain, hail, and strong winds, so it's important for us to get it right. Our experienced team tracks the specific timing of storms and potential impact where you live. With us, when it's urgent, you will know, and we'll constantly keep you updated.
When weather is on the way, count on Severe Weather Team 11 on Channel 11 News.
Hello and welcome back to Inside the Draft. We are live here from Steelers headquarters. I'm Jenna Harner. She's Shelby Cassesi. Thank you all so much for joining us on YouTube, on WPXI Now. We're thrilled to be bringing you coverage as we get set for round 1 of the NFL Draft, 2 o'clock now. So we're officially 6 hours away from the start of round 1.
So exciting.
Oh, I can't wait. This is such an exciting time of year because so much is going to change for so many people, and so many fans are descending on Pittsburgh. We, in the breaks, have been looking, kind of catching up on some things, and seeing those videos of the lines right now to get into Point State Park, to get downtown, to get over to the North Shore, to get ready for the draft stage. Fans came out in full force, as we knew.
I actually have a close friend who is not a football fan, and she asked me if she wanted to go down to the draft to check it out, and she said, what about Thursday night, and I was like, probably not your crowd.
Yeah.
Heavy football fan.
Yes.
If you are a football fan, you are in downtown Pittsburgh on the North Shore tonight. So I encouraged her to go another day because this tonight is all about the football. It's all about the fans who are coming out and wanting to see their team draft the next generation.
And I think one of the coolest parts about the draft being here in Pittsburgh and just having conversations with NFL officials as they were putting it on and getting set and doing all the preparations, they said they wanted to celebrate just the history of football here in Western Pennsylvania, because it truly is unlike any other city. I mean,
something in the water.
Oh, seriously. Between the talent here, the quarterback talent here in the state of Pennsylvania and just in Western PA as a whole, and we talk how many times of all the WPIAL players that get drafted. You know, Aliquippa is the home to 3 Hall of Famers. No other high school in America has that. Like, the talent here is unlike any place else, and I think that was just such an awesome part of the celebration of football in Pittsburgh and wanting to bring the draft here and what fans are going to really get to expect as a part of all of this.
And I want to see if I can try to find this stat. Okay, when you're talking about the number of just the talent that comes out of this region, I went to the Heinz History Center last week, talked to them about a couple of things, including just all of the local Hall of Famers that we have out of Western Pennsylvania, and the director of the Franco Harris Sports Museum, Anne, who was wonderful, she gave me this statistic. We've identified more than 900 Western Pennsylvania high schoolers who went on to play at least one game in professional leagues. So 1 in about every 23 players out of Western Pennsylvania high schools has gone on to play in the NFL.
That's astounding.
It's an astounding statistic, but it just adds so much color to what everyone says all the time, which is there's so much talent, there's so much talent. Well, here's the data to back it up. And you're right, the city has, and I know in our conversations with draft officials, it was such an area of emphasis as to why Pittsburgh was even picked, was to showcase that. So I hope people from out of town get a sense of that as well.
I really hope that they do, and I think that's going to be just such an awesome part of the celebration aspect of this draft. But obviously the Steelers have work to do, as well as all other 31 NFL teams tonight, in terms of building their teams, adding to their rosters, getting the guys that they think are going to be game changers and potential franchise-changing players in their draft. The Steelers, as of right now, have that 21st overall pick tonight, which should be really exciting. I want to talk a little bit about the differences in the front office that we've seen. Obviously, this is now the 4th year under new Steelers general manager Omar Khan, assistant general manager Andy Weidel. Previously, of course, Kevin Colbert stepping down 4 years ago now at this point.
Right after the draft.
Right after the draft. So it was his final draft class in 2022.
Yes.
And there have been some interesting shifts, and that was kind of, I did wonder what that was going to be like once Kevin Colbert stepped down and what this new front office, what this new regime would bring. But I think when you look at the drafts that Omar Khan and Andy Weidel have put together at this point, you can see the level of talent and the level of starters across most of the rounds that they've found. Let's dive into some of the, you have some of the stats and some of the numbers here, but the first picks, let's look at Kevin Colbert's last draft compared to Omar Khan's first draft, because that was a massive point of, you know, people look back and say, yeah, that 22 draft class was really, unfortunately, did not pan out.
Yeah, I mean, so the first round pick in 2022 was, of course, Kenny Pickett, but with this offseason, there is not a single player with the Steelers that was in the Steelers 2022 draft class. It was Kenny Pickett, George Pickens, DeMarvin Leal, Calvin Austin, who left in free agency, Connor Hayward, who just left in free agency, Mark Robinson, who's been in and out of the Steelers franchise, and Chris Oladokin, the quarterback.
That's right.
So no one is left. And, of course, there were big expectations for Kenny Pickett, anticipated him being the franchise quarterback. It didn't pan out that way. George Pickens, immense talent, but not a personality fit here. And I think when we discuss who the Steelers have looked at since then, they are trying to find the talent and the character fit. So, you know, you talked about Iwane tonight, potentially Venga Iwane. you know, the character fit. Potentially Omar Cooper seems like a character fit as well as a talent fit. So looking then ahead to Omar Khan's draft picks, I'm a fan of the boring draft pick. Give me the first round guard any day of the week. Give me the first round nose tackle. I love it. It's such a, I mean, it's the most important part of your roster outside of like quarterback, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree.
But trades up to get Broderick Jones. This 2023 draft class, just the shift from 2022 to 23. And we talked about a little bit earlier how Omar Khan has said, you know, I'd love to sign all of those guys if I could. Really? I mean, looking at this list in 2023, one miss, Corey Trice, who has just had a lot of injury issues.
Yeah, and it's been more bad luck injury-wise than anything.
Jury might be out a little bit still on Broderick Jones, especially with the uncertainty with his injury situation, but trades up to get Broderick Jones right away. Joey Porter Jr., Keanu Benton, Darnell Washington, Nick Herbig, a fourth-round pick.
That still feels like one of the biggest steals of all time.
Spencer Anderson, who's been a great depth piece on this offensive line, especially last year. So it's been really interesting to see Omar Khan's approach differing from Kevin Colbert's. I mean, if you look at Kevin Colbert's first-round picks, even from a number of years. The list kind of gives you a headache a little bit, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Towards the end of his time as the Steelers GM, you could just kind of see, unfortunately, like there were misses.
Yeah.
And not to say that every draft pick is going to be a hit, but you look at these last three drafts under this new regime, and there's starters galore, and starters galore in the middle and even late rounds as well. You have Mason McCormick from the 2024
Yep, fourth round that year.
Fourth round pick. Obviously, Zach Frazier, your second round pick, who everybody thought was going in the first round that year. You know, I think this front office has done a really good job of finding value, but also not being willing to totally mortgage the future and knowing, hey, they don't necessarily have to reach for a player that they really want. They've sat with the way that the board has fallen very well.
And I mean, I remember in 2024 when they drafted Peyton Wilson in the third round, there were some injury concerns with him. But I remember when that pick happened, people saying this could be the steal of the 2024 draft. And I mean, there's someone who started a few games, is going to be a huge role player in their inside linebacker group this year. And even last year, the most recent draft class, you have a number of quick contributors. Derek Harmon, of course, at number one. Y.A. Black as a fifth-round selection.
They found steals in every single. I mean, you just again Nick Herbig, Peyton Wilson, Y.A. Black. Like, those are all incredible value and incredible talent, and we're really starting to see, I mean, you look at these last three drafts, this is that young nucleus this front office is looking to build, especially defensively, because obviously guys like TJ Watt are getting older. Cam Hayward is getting toward the end, even though he's playing at a very elite level, and I don't know when that man will ever quit, because his motor is not quitting by any means. But it is very defensively especially, you're seeing kind of, it's that perfect parallel where, okay, you have the older vets, the Alex Highsmiths even are a part of that group now, not necessarily as old as TJ and Cam, but you know, you have those guys that are paving the way for the Derek Harmons, for the Keanu Bentons, for the Y.A. Blacks, and you're seeing those guys learn from some of the best, some of the top players in Steelers history at those positions. I mean, how many times last year did we talk with Derek Harmon and Y.A. Black, and they said, and even Keanu Benton too, hey, Cam Hayward's still busting down the field 20 yards. Like, we have to be, of course, we're doing that too.
And everyone loves to say, despite him being 50 years old, he's still doing this. They love to over-exaggerate his age, which is hilarious. One of the things as, you know, young professionals in our 30s, we still feel great. We still feel spry. And then you hear about Cam Hayward, it's a medical miracle. He's still playing, and he's like 2 years older than us. So that always brings you down to earth a little bit.
That hurts me a little bit. That's just what I'm like, oh, okay.
But, I mean, you talk about the lack of success for the Steelers, especially in the postseason in the last decade. And a lot of people point to the draft and those final years under Kevin Colbert as one of the main culprits, because not only are you not drafting and developing well, you're not always hitting on free agents. And you have to, there has to be one if you're going to have success. But you look at Kevin Colbert's last few drafts, and with first-round picks. His final first-round pick was Kenny Pickett. Najee Harris obviously was a very consistent and reliable running back here, but didn't last maybe as long as people would have liked when you invest a first-round pick into someone. The only person left from that 2021 class as a Steeler that I can see off the top of my head is Pat Freiermuth in the second round. So you have no one left from the 2022 draft class. You've one person left from the 2021 draft class. And in 2020, a second-round pick, but it was their first pick in the draft, Chase Claypool, who, of course, Omar Khan came in, did his con artist thing and was able to somehow get the Chicago Bears to agree to, you know, getting a high value back.
I still don't know how they did that.
Yeah, that was one of the early con artist moments, I think. Devin Bush in 2019 as the first round pick. At number 10 overall, that was a trade up as well. And Terrell Edmonds in 2018. So, I mean, and then, you know, credit where credit is due. 2017, TJ Watt was the first round overall pick. But all that to say, when you look at the Steelers' lack of success in recent years, you can look at, I mean, my goodness, Artie Burns in 2016, if you start there, all the way up through 2022, 6-7 years of misses with your first-round talent. But now the tide seems to be turning a bit more over the last 3 years, and you're finding guys in high-value players in some of these middle rounds, which, bringing it back to tonight and tomorrow, is why it's one of the reasons why it's so exciting the Steelers have so many picks in those middle rounds.
Yeah, because again, we know that they've been able to find the value there, and I don't think that they're going to be using all 3 of their third rounds, but you have 3 third-round picks, 2 fourth-round picks. You're going to, I mean, they've shown they can find starters in both of those rounds at both of those positions, which the third round you usually think, but fourth round sometimes is a little bit, hey, this might be a special teams guy, this might be a little bit more of a, you know, role player versus consistent starter. And I think that the front office has done a really good job. They're going to have to continue, they're going to have to produce, because at the end of the day, too, these guys can be starters, these guys can be big playmakers, but the playoff success still hasn't been there, and that's been such a Achilles heel, if you want to call it, of this team. Point of contention, all of the things. You know, and I will be interested, too, to see just what this year is going to look like. This is kind of the start of, hey, they're going to be bringing these guys in. They're going to be drafting these guys. They're going to, rookie minicamp will be in just a few weeks. Then we get into OTAs and team minicamp, and then that break before training camp, and we'll really start to kind of see the team come together, and we'll be here more often than we know it. But what this team is going to look like and what this team is going to do this year, there are so many question marks with everything, including what it's going to look like under new head coach Mike McCarthy.
Oh my God, so many questions. You're right. And one of the reasons, and you know, we'll get to our big predictions at the end, but I do think, I think you and I are on the very same page as Chris, and he mentioned a couple of names that I know are going to come up with us a little bit later today. But I truly do believe that the Steelers are going to be prepared to draft their franchise quarterback next year.
Next year, very much so.
Mike McCarthy, very much an offensive head coach. He has already said he's going to be the one calling the plays. He is building this offense around whoever it is at quarterback, whether it be Aaron Rodgers. The man is thrilled to be working with Will Howard. He is very excited about the potential to help develop him. He loves developing quarterbacks. He sees a lot of potential in Will Howard. Regardless, because of Mike McCarthy's fit here, because he is an offensive-minded head coach, because they're preparing for their quarterback of the future, possibly next year, it is really hard for me to envision them not going with the offense tonight and early tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I completely agree, because again, you want that quarterback to come in and be totally set and have all the weapons around them. That's how they need to build what they're going to look to do here. And again, you have the wide receivers, so you're going to be adding to them potentially. I say that as if we know, but it does
feels that way.
All signs seem to point to that. And again, it seems to point to a double dip too, based on, you know, hey, there's a lot of top round talent, but there's also a lot of mid round, that third, fourth round. Skylar Bell from UConn is a name I keep coming back to. He was one of their pre-draft visitors here as well. But they're going to look to invest tonight too. And I think, let's talk a little bit about Broderick Jones in a little bit too, because his injury is potentially making some, I don't know if it makes decisions easier or more difficult for the Steelers, but it puts them in a position to say, hey, you know, they have to address this. It was when we were at the Combine, and this was kind of the first we talked with Omar Khan in the offseason, and he said, someone asked about Broderick Jones and how he was recovering. He had, of course, that neck injury against the Bears. It was like the second, third
I want to say it was
season.
week 12 or week 13, somewhere around there.
That feels right about where it was, but he gets injured. I feel like I remember the team saying it was a stinger, it wasn't anything big. Then all of a sudden it's, oh, he's having surgery and he's on IR. And it was this very quick shift and very quick turn. So the uncertainty with him, you know, we're getting an update at the Combine, and Omar Khan says, you know, look, like he still has some work to do. We don't know if he's going to be ready for the start of the season. And you never entirely know sometimes what front office members are saying, and we mentioned smoke screens, how they want to kind of hold those up. But later in that press conference, I'd asked about Deshaun Elliott, and he immediately came out and said, oh, Deshaun's going to be fully ready for the season.
The difference.
There's different, you kind of pick apart and take some clues and stuff there. But there's a very real possibility that Broderick Jones is not going to be ready to start this season. And that's a massive question mark for the Steelers, who thought coming into this year, okay, we're going to have to add a guard in some way because they lose Isaac Seumalo in free agency. This becomes a much bigger problem now.
Yeah, and you know, I've seen Broderick Jones's injury compared to Asante Samuel Jr.'s injury a decent bit, which of course that cost him a significant amount of time. I mean, was it at least a season?
It was,
So I mean, you see comparisons there without maybe jumping to conclusions, but it just really seems like they are still waiting for a lot of answers. There was that report that came out earlier in the week that he had suffered a setback, and I do think the Steelers have tried to throw some cold water on that, and Omar Khan even saying, like, nothing has changed earlier this week, because that did come up in his pre-draft press conference, and that's kind of where he left it and just said, you know, nothing has changed. So it doesn't seem like maybe a setback could have been the right way to phrase that.
Yeah.
But a lot of questions, yes, there are, and you do wonder, with your starting left tackle very much in question, how does it change the way they approach things tonight? But it just seems to me, because it is a question mark and not a definitive, utilizing a first-round pick or even, you know, early second round to maybe have a new starting left tackle feels like a use of resources that doesn't quite add up, because you just don't know at this point.
And that's why I think that if they're going to add to their offensive line, it's going to be at the guard position, with potentially trading up for,
because you know that's an opening.
Absolutely. Versus, again, maybe you find there are some really good second and third round tackles in this draft, so maybe you find a little bit of depth there and say, hey, this guy could potentially be a starter if we need him to be, depending on where Broderick is at. But, or, you know, hey, he's going to come back and recover at this point in the season. We'll need you to kind of fill in the gap until we get there, but not also putting too much on a rookie if that necessarily is the case.
And credit to where credit is due, Dylan Cook was very serviceable.
Very much
in Broderick Jones's place. So if they do go with someone, you know, what I think could be interesting in regards to the situation, I don't see them drafting a pure tackle in the first round tonight. But if you find, I mean, the Steelers, I think it's fair to say that every team loves versatility. But I mean, the Steelers in particular do love to find people who are versatile. Maybe you find an offensive tackle who does have the flexibility to play guard as well. The size is good for guard, but they can step in as a tackle if need be. So that could be a direction they head into as well tonight. I would see that to me makes a lot more sense than just drafting a pure tackle with your first round pick, or even maybe early tomorrow.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I completely agree. We're going to take a break. When we come back, Jerome Bettis, he's talking about his draft night. We love Jerome. He's here in town. You've probably seen him everywhere at this point, because the man is here, there, and everywhere doing everything. We had a chance to talk with him, hear about his draft night coming up. This is Inside the Draft.
I'm Channel 11 Morning News anchor Liz Kilmer. Paying for food, transportation, and housing, it all adds up, and taking care of your family can feel harder than ever. But that's why we have consumer advisor Clark Howard. Clark knows the market, has the deals, and shares ways that you can save money. He also alerts you to scams so you don't get ripped off. Clark Howard helps you save more, spend less, and avoid scams on Channel 11 Morning News.
First thing when you wake up, Channel 11 Morning News is live to get you ready for the day.
Good morning. Thanks so much for watching.
4:30 to 7 a.m. every weekday. Jennifer Tomazik and Liz Kilmer constantly update breaking and local news.
We are starting the morning with breaking news.
Scott Harbaugh's forecast helps you plan your day. Tricia Pittman gets you around traffic backups. And Clark Howard saves you money.
Now this is a great deal.
Get ready for the day with Channel 11 Morning News. Channel 11 News, live at 4, 5, and 6. The biggest local stories from neighborhood to neighborhood, impacting you the most. Breaking news. First, the experienced team asking tough questions, digging for answers, and getting the facts to keep you informed and safe. Every day, count on Channel 11 News at 4, 5, and 6.
When weather's on the way, Severe Weather Team 11's priority is to keep you safe. Storms can bring heavy rain, hail, and strong winds, so it's important for us to get it right. Our experienced team tracks the specific timing of storms and potential impact where you live. With us, when it's urgent, you will know, and we'll constantly keep you updated.
When weather is on the way, count on Severe Weather Team 11 on Channel 11 News.
And welcome back to Inside the Draft, live here from Steelers headquarters. I'm Jenna Harner. She's Shelby Cassesi. We are getting you ready for the draft. Thanks so much for joining us on WPXI Now. We're streaming on YouTube as well. Thanks to everybody who's tuning in. We're thrilled to be here with you and getting you set for the draft. And I don't know if people have been around yet a lot, but if you've been out and about and taking part in some of the early draft activities, you've probably seen Jerome Bettis around town.
I mean, he is one of the biggest Steelers stars of all time. And I mean, we work with Jerome weekly on the Jerome Bettis Show during the season, so we know him well. He is as wonderful as they come.
As truly.
And it doesn't matter what age you are. And I know our boss Kelly and I were at a golf event with him last year with, you know, kindergartners and, you know, kids around that age, middle schoolers, and they all, you know, were starstruck by Jerome Bettis, even though he was not playing in their lifetime. It just, the lasting impact he has had in this city, and he truly, it does not bother him, it does not annoy him. He loves being around the fans.
And it's so cool just to hear about his love for Pittsburgh, his love for this city. And, you know, you don't necessarily see star players to the caliber that Jerome was a star player come back and consistently do what they do. I mean, his foundation is here, all that he does. He always says to us, you know, I just want to give to a city that gave me so much. And you can just see everything he does, all of his galas, all of his charity work. He was doing Habitat for Humanity this weekend. Like, I feel like every time I looked up, I saw, oh, Jerome's doing some other charitable event, and that's just par for the course for him.
Totally is. And I got the chance to meet up with him in his a very brief window of time. He fit me in his day yesterday, which was very nice. Talked with him one-on-one about the Steelers' outlook and maybe some of his own draft memories as well. Well, first and foremost, Jerome, welcome back home to Pittsburgh. What is it like for you to see the city on display as it is this week?
This is really cool because obviously I've known how special Pittsburgh is, and to now have the whole country see what Pittsburgh is and the evolution of the city, how it's evolved from the steel town to now to being a tech base and so many things that's going on, right? And how everything has been reimagined in the downtown area. It's just great to now be able to show that off.
We know the Steelers need some receivers, defensive backs, maybe some offensive linemen. Where is your sense of where they're going with this first-round pick?
Well, that's the challenge. Because you're picking, you know, at 21, you don't have the luxury of really having a really good plan in terms of this is where we want to go. But I think if the draft kind of goes the way that, you know, you see a lot of prognosticators say, I think there'll be an opportunity possibly with an offensive lineman and possibly a really good defensive back. And I think those may be the two areas, if I was in that room, I would be focusing on, because I think there's the opportunity there with the amount of talent that's in the draft to get a really good player that can really help the team.
Is there anyone prospect-wise that stood out to you through the pre-draft process that you think that guy's a Steeler?
Well, quite a few guys, but it's one of those you don't really want to say because you don't want anybody else to be like, you know what, that guy is a really good player. So there's a few guys and a few offensive linemen that I really like, but I don't want to jinx us and say some guys and somebody say, oh, you know what, this guy's really. But offensive line is where I would love to target.
With 12 picks, do you think the Steelers could move around a decent bit?
I think they could. And I think that's where the advantage comes in of having those picks, having those assets where you can, if you see a guy who's there who shouldn't be there, then you have the ability to go up and get them. And I think that's going to be the benefit of having those 12 picks. But I believe they've got to be aggressive to get the right players because you look at this offense and Mike McCarthy and what he's been able to do throughout the years. I believe he's got the mind to do it. The problem is I don't necessarily think we have the personnel to have such an explosive offense. So I think this draft is going to be critical in getting the talent needed to implement the offense that we really want to have.
And speaking of that offense, I think the Steelers were at least hopeful they'd hear from Aaron Rodgers at this point. They keep saying conversations are positive, but heading into this draft without a concrete plan at quarterback, does that change the prerogative a little bit, or are you staying the course with potentially Aaron Rodgers and the guys they have in there now?
Well, if it's me, it's not changing my mindset. I still want to get a quarterback maybe in the later rounds so that now I have the ability to develop another quarterback and have another young quarterback in that room. In the event he decides not to, then you have multiple quarterbacks that you can develop and really give them that opportunity. And if it works, great. You have your quarterback for the future. And if it doesn't work, then you get ready and get in position for a draft next year that has more than 1 to 2 top quarterbacks.
These guys who hear their names tomorrow, obviously extremely exciting, but I remember a story that you told to us about kind of the pressure sinking in when you walked backstage after you heard your name called. How much additional pressure is there with becoming a first-round pick tomorrow?
There's a lot of pressure because, the guys want this, but once it happens, then you understand you go to that team, you're being brought out, they parade you out. Now, it's like, okay, you got what you wanted. Now, you got to give us what we want, and we want a first-round productivity. And so now you start to think about, oh, boy, here we go. And then you get to your team, and the team is saying, all right, this is the young guy. This is the first-round guy. Let's see what you got. So at every step, you're going to be tested, right? And so the pressure starts to mount once you get drafted, once you realize it, and after that day of celebration is over, and you realize it's time to get to work, that's when the pressure sets in.
The year you were picked, obviously very formative and a big deal, but the draft where you became a Steeler, perhaps even more so.
Yes.
What do you remember about that day that you became a Steeler?
Well, I remember that it was going to happen, and I was going to be going somewhere. I didn't necessarily know where. I knew it was between Pittsburgh and Houston at the time. I wanted to come to Pittsburgh, so I was really, really hoping that it happened. And it reminded me almost of draft day all over again, like when I was drafted the first time, because then I knew I was going to a new team. It was a new start, and it was the franchise, the organization that I wanted to go to. I was super excited. So it was close to the first time, but not quite as nostalgic as the first time.
Sure. I think this is the first we've talked to you since Mike McCarthy was hired. Obviously a Pittsburgh guy, came here for his introductory press conference with tears in his eyes. What do you think he brings to the Steelers?
I think he brings a obviously know-how. He understands Pittsburgh. He understands how it operates. He knows the tradition. He knows about the organization, and he knows that the city wants a winner. And I think that's a big part of his understanding. I think, and he's going to try to provide that. And so now it's the team's job to give him the necessary pieces, right, that he can go out there and do the things that he wants to do, but there's a lot of excitement in the air.
A lot of excitement in the air, indeed. It's always so great to get to catch up with Jerome Bettis, good friend of the show.
Always. I mean, you sat down with him for, how long was that interview you did with him?
It was almost an hour, to the point where I was like, Jerome, and this is before we were taping an episode of the Jerome Bettis show, but I said, Jerome, like, do you have time? Do we need to do it? And he's like, no, but you can tell he loves telling stories. He loves reflecting on big moments in his career. And
he's not afraid to talk about the bad ones either.
Oh, no, not at all. I keep going back to when we did that story with him, and I sat down with him and talked to him about the Super Bowl run, his last season, of course, and the Colts game that year, the very infamous Colts game. And I asked him, what moment what was it like for you in that moment, seeing, Ben make that tackle and knowing, hey, potentially like this, it might be over for you. And he was so reflective and so introspective, and just kind of took a moment to say, I realized like this could be what I'm remembered for. This could be my legacy. It was I almost was just like, I'm very happy that wasn't the case, Jerome, but you could just sense the emotion. I mean, he is somebody that loves the sport, that loves this game, that loves giving back, and is just such an incredible ambassador, not only to the Steelers, but to the city of Pittsburgh.
Also will be making a pick at some point this weekend. I don't know, Jenna. He doesn't seem like a day two guy for picks. He's larger than life, so perhaps we'll see him tonight, but if not, we will at some point this weekend, seeing him make a Steelers pick.
100%. He's coming out on that stage. He's going to be twirling that terrible towel. Whenever he takes the stage to make that pick, the crowd is going to, we need like one of those decibel meters down there to the crowd's going to go absolutely nuts, as they should.
Yes, and he was out on the field for the anniversary of one of the Super Bowls, and it had to have been that Super Bowl run. The 2005 Super Bowl, the 20th anniversary, my goodness, feeling a little old, but 20th anniversary of that Super Bowl, and of all the players that were out there, Ben Roethlisberger included, Jerome Bettis was the last one called. That got the biggest pop from the crowd. And of course, we're all on a friendly basis with him, where we say, Jerome, you got the biggest cheer. And he just kind of, laughs and is appreciative. But he talks about those two formative draft nights for him, of course, being the one where he was drafted, and then the draft night where he was traded to the Steelers. And this might be something that people forget about or don't know. The Steelers acquired Jerome Bettis from the Rams with a third-round pick, and the Steelers gave up a second-round pick in 1996, so that year, and a fourth-round pick the next year. I mean,
the value,
is that the steal of a lifetime,
100%,
or not?
Without a doubt. And I mean, again, you look at the career he had, the Hall of Fame, every accolade, winning a Super Bowl, doing it in his hometown of Detroit. It couldn't have been a better career in totality for a player, for a person like that.
Yeah, and I've gotten the chance to tell him this, which is kind of like one of the few pinch me moments that I've had in this career, but he was the first jersey I owned, a Bettis jersey. He was the first football player that really kind of drew me in as a true fan and started to help me love the game. And I credited him, and I've gotten the opportunity to tell him this, credited him with being in this career, because if it weren't for him, I probably wouldn't have loved football as much as I did and wouldn't have gotten into this. And so, I mean, it was cool to be able to tell him that.
Butterfly effect.
Yeah,
look at what happens. And we also, of course, have to give him a little bit of sass when both you and I beat him in our Beat the Bus weekly, year-long picks throughout the
As we
NFL
both did this
season.
year.
As we both did this year. He's lost 2 years in a row now.
Jerome, we're coming for you for the three-peat.
He can continue to finish second or third, which we very much appreciate and we love.
Exactly.
We're going to take another quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be bringing on another guest, former NFL General Manager Doug Whaley, who we love, who is always incredibly insightful and has a whole lot of area of expertise that we don't get to hear from always, especially on a big night like tonight. He'll be joining us after the break. Don't go anywhere.
I'm Channel 11 Morning News anchor Liz Kilmer. Paying for food, transportation, and housing, it all adds up. And taking care of your family can feel harder than ever. But that's why we have consumer advisor Clark Howard Clark knows the market, has the deals, and shares ways that you can save money. He also alerts you to scams so you don't get ripped off. Clark Howard helps you save more, spend less, and avoid scams on Channel 11 Morning News.
First thing when you wake up, Channel 11 Morning News is live to get you ready for the day.
Good morning. Thanks so much for watching.
4:30 to 7 a.m. every weekday. Jennifer Tomazik and Liz Kilmer constantly update breaking and local news.
We are starting the morning with breaking news.
Scott Harbaugh's forecast helps you plan your day. Tricia Pittman gets you around traffic backups. And Clark Howard saves you money.
Now this is a great deal.
Get ready for the day with Channel 11 Morning News. Channel 11 News, live at 4, 5, and 6. The biggest local stories from neighborhood to neighborhood, impacting you the most. Breaking news. First, the experienced team asking tough questions, digging for answers, and getting the facts to keep you informed and safe. Every day, count on Channel 11 News at 4, 5, and 6.
When weather's on the way, Severe Weather Team 11's priority is to keep you safe. Storms can bring heavy rain, hail, and strong winds, so it's important for us to get it right. Our experienced team tracks the specific timing of storms and potential impact where you live. With us, when it's urgent, you will know, and we'll constantly keep you updated.
When weather is on the way, count on Severe Weather Team 11 on Channel 11 News.
And welcome back to Inside the Draft. We're live here at Steelers headquarters, counting down to round one of the NFL Draft here in Pittsburgh. I'm Jenna Harner, she's Shelby Cassesi, and we are joined on the phone by former NFL General Manager Doug Whaley. He's also one of our big analysts we always have on during Sunday Night Football. Doug, thank you so much for joining us. We're thrilled to have you with us here tonight.
Oh, this is a thrill of mine and hopefully all, not only Steeler fans, but football fans. It's draft day. It's the second Christmas of the year for football fans, right?
It really is. We're having a lot of fun gearing people up for the draft, of course, here in Pittsburgh. And we want to start off tapping into your experience, of course, because take us through what these days would be like for you. We heard from Omar this week, and he says this every year ahead of the draft, how he wished time would just speed up and Thursday night would get here already. What was sort of your approach to draft night as a former NFL GM?
Well, he's right, because the process has just gotten so long, and every day there's just a lot of information that's coming out. And it's one of those things where you just, all right, we did our work. We just want to get this thing going. So, but a day like today, and I was just actually talking to my wife about this, we would take, in the morning, we'd take a nice long walk together. I would just sit there and talk, try to catch up on family time, because for that whole month before the draft, you're locked and loaded in draft prep, getting there early in the morning, not leaving till late at night. Your family's asleep by the time you get in. So, all right, let me catch up on what's going on at the homestead. And then after that, you got in, and it was last-minute prep. And I'm not saying changing the draft board or anything, but checking everything to make sure all your T's are crossed and all your I's are dotted, meaning let's make sure we have the correct phone numbers on all these guys. So because we want to call and congratulate them when we turn their name in for a selection. So you want to make sure you'll be able to talk to them. And you actually reach out to them to make sure this is the right number, but also, has anything happened since the last time we were in contact with you? Did you actually pull a hamstring? Did anything happen that you got hurt? So just make sure you're up to date on everything. And then lastly, you sit down with your medical team and the doctors and your trainers and say, okay, here's some of the guys that we had some questions on, or we have maybe dinged for medical. Let's review those and to make sure there's no last-minute updates or additional information that could adjust their medical grade. So, again, it was really just a lot of housekeeping and just really just focusing on, hey, game day's about to start. Let's make sure we're as prepared as possible.
When you're in round one and, you know, okay, your team is on the clock. You're picking 21st overall, like the Steelers are set to at this point coming into tonight. What's that process like? The second you're on the clock, what happens? Walk us through kind of the steps between being on the clock and officially having that first round pick announced.
Well, what happens is really you start thinking about it usually 3 to 4 picks ahead of you. You start getting everybody in the room, all the scouts, all the coaches, and start saying, okay, is our guy there? And if our guy's there, then you start thinking, do we want to really move up to go get our guy? Or there's 3 or 4 guys there that we would like, so we're not going to move. So you start those discussions. And if it's, hey, there's really one guy that's high up on the board that is somebody that we think we can get, then you start talking to your pro director, Sheldon White, who has canvassed the league and got teams above us, above where they are, if they'd be interested in moving down, and if so, what that would take. He's calling them and saying, hey, we're interested, and you start working out the parameters of the deal, and then you close the deal then. If you're going to sit tight, then it's like, okay, here are the 3 names that are there, and we have 3 spots to go, so we'll get one of those 3 guys on the board. Then that's, okay, where we talked about this, let's just rehash. Do we have them stacked right? Do we have the one we want the most that high? Or did something change where we have to adjust it? So just really last-minute checks and balances and making sure everybody's on the same page and ready to go. But the biggest preparation is during the draft process and the meetings, so you stack them exactly the way you want to, so there's no surprises and all the really information and discussion is already done.
Now, a lot of the talk surrounding the Steelers tonight could be if they do trade up, they might be looking into that, like, early teen range, especially to potentially get ahead of the Baltimore Ravens at 14, I believe. So, number one, do you think that's a realistic possibility for the Steelers? And number two, if that is the direction they go, and kind of take us through what that process looks like to move up that significantly.
Well, I'll tell you this much. To move up that significantly, they're going to have to give next year's one plus. So when I was in Buffalo, we traded from 10 to 17, and we got a first round and the next year's first round and a additional third in this draft. So they're going to have to expend some capital, but that's one of those buyer beware, because if they're thinking next year's draft class of quarterbacks has some options, I think they would be more wise to collect picks next year's. But let's say they don't. They say, we got to go up and get this guy. So what's happening again? Sheldon's going to call that team probably a pick or 2 before they're on the clock and say, what's it going to take? You start talking about the different deals, then Omar will get on with the GM and say, okay, it's your pick at 10 or 14 for our pick at 21 plus our 2027 first-round pick and maybe one of our third-round picks this year. Confirm. So they both recite the deal parameters of the trade. They both type it up, and they both send it into the league, and then the league gets it. And they probably don't do it until they're on the clock, because the team that's trading will wait.
Do we still have him?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. So what will happen, I'm saying, is they'll confirm, and once they confirm, the team that is going to be trading will probably wait until they're on the clock, just in case there's some other team that comes in with a better offer. But then once they're on the clock and they agree, they send it into the league, and the league approves it, and then it gets announced.
We've talked so much, too, about how this is such an emotional night for so many because, for these players and prospects, their lives are forever changing. For the front offices, there's so much excitement knowing, hey, they're bringing in a guy they expect is going to be a change maker in what their team is looking to do, what this franchise looks to do. How cool is that moment when you're on the phone having the conversation with especially a first-round pick that, hey, your dream is coming true. I mean, I guess all of the players, too, but your dream is coming true. You're heading to the NFL. Just what's that moment like? How cool and special is it?
I mean, I'll say this. The job is very stressful. And when I tell people, they're like, that GM job was great. It is great because in the end, you are being able to afford a person the fulfillment of his dreams. And we're talking dreams that they have been thinking about since they were little. They've put so many hours of preparation, of sacrifice, and just trying to strive to get to this level. And to call them and say, guess what? All of that work that you put in, we're going to reward you by drafting you and being part of the NFL. And that moment, you just hear it in their voice. It's just such an attainment of an ultimate goal. and then you hear everybody else that has been around them supporting them while they're chasing this dream. It's just such elation and such joy. A lot of times it gets so drowned out. All you can say is, hey, this is the Pittsburgh Steelers. We're drafting you. Hopefully you're excited to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. And they just start saying yes, and then the background just erupts. So you got to give it like, I'm assuming like a comedian. You got to give it time for the audience to calm down. Everybody calm down. You put them with the coach, put them on the corner, and then hand them off one of the scouts to get some information for travel, especially for travel Pittsburgh that night or the next morning.
We are speaking with former NFL General Manager Doug Whaley, also one of our WPXI Steelers analysts, diving into the Steelers a bit more here tonight. We know the positions of need: receiver, defensive back, offensive line. Quarterback is a position of need, quote unquote, but obviously there's a lot more to that. When you look at the number of picks they have available, when you look at the depth of these different positions, where do you see the Steelers landing tonight? What position group do you think they're most focused on right now?
I think out of the first 3 rounds, if they can get an offensive lineman, a wide receiver, and a corner, they are really setting themselves up for success. And it's funny, I was just thinking about this recently. About when I was still in the league and I got out in 2017, all you heard was the analytics push up, trade down, get more picks. Well, people started understanding when you trade down and get more picks, you're trading away from higher quality players. And where the Steelers are with their roster, they don't need more bites at the apple. They need quality players. So I foresee them bundling maybe one of those third-round picks to target a guy that they have higher on the board instead of coming down and trying to get and trading away from higher caliber players to get more picks. And you're starting to see that more and more around the league, and more people and teams talk about we're looking for quality players instead of quantity of players.
You mentioned the quality players, too, and Shelby and I were discussing this earlier, but it has been very interesting to watch how this new regime, this new front office since Omar Khan and Andy Weidel really took over, how they've found a lot of really solid value picks in those mid-rounds, guys that are starters. How imperative is that? And I know that feels like a very face value question, but how imperative is it to find those key guys? You know, obviously you look at first rounds and say, hey, most of these guys are going to be incredibly talented. Most of these guys are going to be different makers. But how imperative is it, and how much of a challenge, too, is it to find some of those, I guess, diamonds in the rough in late third, fourth, fifth round pick type guys?
Well, here's how you got to think about it. Once you start getting quality, if you start hitting on your first and second and third round picks, when they get that second contract, like Joey Porter Jr., he's going to get a big contract. So what that does is that really squeezes the middle class. So what you have to do to make sure your roster is as strong as possible and be able to withstand injuries and the guys that you can't sign, either you can't afford or they move on because they're not good enough, you need that back end of the roster, the 4 through 7 round guys, to hit. You got to be at least 60. You hope to be at least 60% on those 4 through 7 round hitting guys that can, 1, come in and play special teams, 2, come in, play special teams and develop, and then hopefully if someone gets hurt or someone leaves, they can step in so you get cheap labor with a high upside, and then that's how you can sustain injuries throughout the season and sustain defections because of free agency. You have to hit on those. And those teams that do that have that roster that can consistently compete in playoff-type formats.
Doug, I don't believe the Aaron Rodgers situation is going to impact much of what they do this weekend, but the situation certainly is interesting to dive into because they indicated that this wasn't going to be like it was last year. He, of course, signed at the beginning of June, showed up to Pittsburgh for mandatory minicamp. And at first, they were kind of anticipating maybe free agency hearing from him. Then it was the draft, and the goalposts are kind of moving and moving. But they continue to tell us conversations have been positive. They're fine with where they're at. As a general manager going into kind of the second year of this uncertainty surrounding Aaron Rodgers, how do you handle this situation, given where this team is at with their quarterbacks?
Well, I think the way you have to do it is have a plan, but be light on your feet. So their plan right now is for Aaron Rodgers. But what they're saying is, and I think they have to have a situation where if Aaron has something that comes up that he says, I'm not going, that should be factored into your plans going into the draft. So I foresee them picking a quarterback. Where that will be, I don't know, but I see them picking a quarterback. So if he decides not to come back, they at least have the numbers. You have at least 3 quarterbacks, and then they'll probably sign a college free agent to have 4 quarterbacks in the room. Listening to Mike McCarthy's press conference, he said he has to have 3. He'd like to have 4. So I see a draft and a signing of a college free agent, and that protects you just in case something goes south with Aaron. And we all know it's on Aaron's time, and it's all going to be about Aaron. So they're going to sit there, and I'm sure they've had conversations. The one thing I do say that I'm sure they're not as worried is his familiarity with the offense. So it's not like he's going to have to come in and get up to speed with new verbiage and a total new offensive system. It's something that he made multiple starts in and spent plenty of years in, so that's not going to be an issue. So I think that's another reason why they're okay waiting.
To follow up, if Aaron Rodgers does decide, I think it would be to the surprise of a lot of people to not come, and they are light on their feet, they do draft a quarterback here. How do you see that playing out? Because that does maybe change some things if you want to go a little bit higher for a quarterback, or do you think they're kind of, Mike McCarthy has spoken very well about Will Howard. He's very excited to develop him. Where do you think that leaves the Steelers if there's no Aaron Rodgers, they do draft a quarterback in their quarterback room?
I would say it would lead them. I don't see them going in that first round at 21 picking a quarterback. That's just me. I obviously didn't dive into the study of the quarterbacks, and I always tell people there's a difference in that position from watching them on tape and then watching them on tape and then actually sitting down and talking to them and watching that film with them. So you start to understand their thought process, why they did what they did. Was it because the coach told them to throw that ball, or they decided because of the coverage it dictated that? And I was in a quarterback room where this quarterback would always throw it to this receiver and would say,
Oh, Doug, I think we might have lost you for a second. I think we might have lost Doug there. The cell phone service around Pittsburgh, as anticipated this weekend.
Do you have him back? Doug, are you there? No, a little spotty.
A little spotty, but Doug, thank you for your phenomenal. Oh, are you back? Maybe? 3rd time's a charm here? Or is that just my voice?
No, well, Doug, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it.
Yes, very great insight.
The exclamation points when he said, if you want to trade up to get ahead of the Ravens, it's going to be a first-rounder next year. I mean, that to me, all deals are off to trade a first-rounder next year.
That feels, very much so. And we may have Doug back now that I'm hearing. Maybe not. We're trying real hard here. The magic of live television, live
TV, everyone. As our friend Mike Holden would say, it's live TV. We're moving and grooving.
We're moving and grooving. Good friend Mike Holden. But no, lots of very interesting things. I do feel like if it's going to take that much and next year's first, I feel like the Steelers might be a lot more cautious about looking to move up in the first round.
To me, to give up your first-round pick next year, to get who we've been talking about, a guard or a receiver in the year that you're trying to draft your franchise quarterback in 2027, that's a no-go to me. But, on the flip side, and that's something you and I have talked to Chris about, and you and I have talked about it, the Rams are a very interesting partner in that they don't have hardly any middle round picks.
And so they might be a little more cautious and might say, hey, look, okay, we're willing to move the deal here and make we'll take this pick from you and do this pick and kind of the shuffling there. But it's interesting to each team, again, like Omar Khan was this before he came up into his role, but he was that guy that, they have all these trade values and trade charts, and the Jimmy Johnson one was the one that really became kind of famous for saying, okay, if you want to get to this position, it's every pick has a numerical value, and And so you do all the fun little quick math, and it's, oh, this pick plus this pick plus this pick equals about the draft capital that it would take to get to that position. So there's guys in every front office working that math, usually, you know, early young staffers kind of in that way, or maybe not necessarily.
Which was Omar at one point.
Which really is, it's really cool to see kind of the progression from him there too. But you're having these guys kind of work the math and say, okay, you know, we're gonna look to do this and find that fair value where, hey, you know, we're willing to part with these picks to get up to this position. Hey, we feel confident that we can still get a guy that we really like on our board if you're the opposite team coming back that way saying we'll move down. So it will be very interesting to see some of the movement and some of the values assigned with the movement, because maybe it might not just be the Steelers too. There are so many talks about the potential for just a lot of trades in the first round of this draft, which would be really exciting, I think.
Yeah, and one question I didn't get to ask Doug that I wanted to talk about, and this is such a, maybe like a niche NFL thing, but the fact that there are now 8 minutes to submit your selection this year instead of 10 minutes. You lose that 2 minutes. And Omar Khan was asked about it earlier this week, and he kind of grumbled and was like, I mean, yeah, you would love to have that 2 minutes back. And Mike McCarthy goes, hey, I mean, you got 40 seconds to call a play. It really doesn't bother me too much. So, but I'm curious to get it. Was curious to get another general manager's perspective on that, losing that 2 minutes. Actually, you know, we talk each year for us about when the Steelers might draft, because it's imperative to know with our 10 o'clock news when we'll have the pick, when we're going on, how fast we'll need to get it together. And in years past, it's been right at that mark. Like, we go on around 10:45 and they pick around 10:40. But this year, you know, you might want to stay in your seat a little bit more frequently, because it could be a much more quickly moving first round. So.
And I do believe, oh, maybe not. I was told initially we might have Doug back to ask that question, but we're going to bring him on again tomorrow.
Yes,
when
he'll
we
be
do
back
this.
tomorrow at 2:40.
So we definitely can ask kind of, because all the rounds were shortened this year a little bit too. So I'm going to be interested to see like what that does in the mind of a GM and how you operate. I want a fun little tidbit before we head to break too. In the most famous draft class of all time, or arguably considered as the best draft class of all time, of course, the Steelers 1974 draft class, where it was Lynn Swann, it was John Stallworth, it was all of the Hall of Famers,
draft class,
Hall of Famers in the first 5 rounds, and another Hall of Famer added in free agency. Just, I mean, a hall of all halls. But the way the draft used to work then is if you didn't get your pick in time, another team, the team behind you, would be able to leapfrog you and take that pick. And Chuck Noll really liked, I'm spacing on names as I tend to do, their third round receiver, their fourth round receiver. Okay. Why am I spacing on this name? It's terrible. It's a Hall of Famer. It's a Steelers, and I wrote this story, but Chuck Noll really liked him, but everyone was looking at Lynn Swann and saying, hey, he's a first round pick. You know, he's not going to be there if we wait. Yeah. And is it John Stallworth? Yeah, Lynn Swann and John Stallworth. I don't know. I'm thinking Jack. Okay, I know where my brain did this now. It's Lynn Swann and John Stallworth. They really liked John Stallworth. But with Lynn Swann, they said, hey, he's not going to be there. So the front office was kind of going back and forth a little bit. And with 5 seconds to spare, they got the pick in for Lynn Swann. And the Cowboys would have taken Lynn Swann following after that. So just a fun little tidbit. Too,
I know the way that the draft has evolved over time. It was initially a room of like 12 owners. Yep. Here in Pittsburgh.
That's right.
And now, you know, we see the lines for today. So,
and now, of course, they're getting ready. We are just about 5 hours out from round 1 of the NFL draft. We're going to take a quick break here on Inside the Draft, but when we come back, we're diving into some of the prospects the Steelers might select. We had the chance to talk to some receivers earlier this week. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I'm Channel 11 Morning News anchor Liz Kilmer. Paying for food, transportation, and housing, it all adds up, and taking care of your family can feel harder than ever. But that's why we have consumer advisor Clark Howard. Clark knows the market, has the deals, and shares ways that you can save money. He also alerts you to scams so you don't get ripped off. Clark Howard helps you save more, spend less, and avoid scams on Channel 11 Morning News.
First thing when you wake up, Channel 11 Morning News is live to get you ready for the day.
Good morning. Thanks so much for watching.
4:30 to 7 a.m. every weekday. Jennifer Tomazik and Liz Kilmer constantly update breaking and local news.
We are starting the morning with breaking news.
Scott Harbaugh's forecast helps you plan your day. Tricia Pittman gets you around traffic backups. and Clark Howard saves you money.
Now this is a great deal.
Get ready for the day with Channel 11 Morning News. Channel 11 News, live at 4, 5, and 6. The biggest local stories from neighborhood to neighborhood, impacting you the most. Breaking news. First, the experienced team asking tough questions, digging for answers, and getting the facts to keep you informed and safe. Every day, count on Channel 11 News at 4, 5, and 6.
When weather's on the way, Severe Weather Team 11's priority is to keep you safe. Storms can bring heavy rain, hail, and strong winds, so it's important for us to get it right. Our experienced team tracks the specific timing of storms and potential impact where you live. With us, when it's urgent, you will know, and we'll constantly keep you updated.
When weather is on the way, count on Severe Weather Team 11 on Channel 11 News.
And welcome back to Steelers headquarters. I'm Jenna Harner, she shall be Cassesi. This is Inside the Draft. We have hit the third hour, or we are in the third hour. Am I doing that right?
Yeah, we're in the third hour.
We're in the third hour, 5 hours away from round one of the NFL draft. It's a little quiet here on Steelers headquarters right now. It will not be the case later tonight.
No.
They will be making their decision. Also in fitting fashion, I love this, the train outside the Steelers facility.
We always have a train
rolling by right now. So just, if you wanted the feel of Pittsburgh in a podcast, we've got it for you right here.
Right here.
Right here. The Steelers picked 21st overall tonight, as we've touched on, and a lot of different directions they can go, as we've touched on. But it does seem to just, all signs point to them taking a receiver based on everything that seems, you know, all these mock drafts and all the analysts and everything and all the conversations of, hey, this is who this team seems like they're really interested in taking. This is the needs of the team. You know, the Titans at 4th overall, Jeremiah Love seems to feel almost inevitable to be going there. So those types of things kind of give you a sense of how the board might shake out. But it really does feel like the Steelers are going wide receiver based on the depth of talent that there is, not only in the first round, but kind of in most rounds of this draft at that position.
And the question it becomes, who's going to be available to them, because they are far from the only receiver needy team drafting tonight and drafting ahead of them as well. So, I mean, you look at maybe some of the reach wide receivers, Carnell Tate, not going to be there. We feel that way. Jordan Tyson and Makai Lemon, those are reaches to me as well. But then you get into like Denzel Boston, Omar Cooper, Casey Concepcion. Now we're really talking about what's possibly in range at 21. But Makai Lemon was among one of the lone top 30 visits the Steelers had of potential first rounders. So obviously someone that they like. Mike McCarthy and Omar Khan were asked about their meeting with him earlier this week, and they gushed about him. He did get a little bit of a bad rap at the combine, and people thought he kind of bombed his interviews, wasn't very personable or likable. But Omar and Mike both said he was incredible. It was time well spent. Really gushed about him, and I actually ended up getting a chance to talk with Makai Lemon at the clinic yesterday, the prospect clinic alongside the Special Olympics. And I mean, to kind of put into perspective how this all worked, these prospects, there were 15, 16 of them, the ones that are here in person for the draft. They held this clinic alongside a lot of local kids, alongside the Special Olympics. And then afterwards, they open up the field to us reporters. These prospects stood there for 30, 45 minutes, probably took the same question 18 times from people. What is the team that's drafting you getting in you, that type of thing.
What's this process been like
Yes,
for you?
But we did get the chance to speak to Makai Lemon. He answered a number of Steelers-specific questions, and here is some of that availability. What do you bring to the team that selects you?
They're bringing the dog, like I said, someone that also wants to win, someone that's going to lead by example, it's going to do anything, that the program needs me to do, at my best at a high level.
You've just been asked about Kansas City, Steelers, and the Rams. Is your head spinning right now?
No, I'm just really where my feet at, just definitely cherishing every moment and just taking it all in. It's definitely a blessing to be here and what I got going for myself. So, it's definitely a great feeling.
You play through scenarios in your head? You think about it?
Sometimes a little bit, you know, before I go to sleep maybe, but, you know, I don't really try to, you know, think about it too much. You know, it's right around the corner, so it's all a waiting game, and we're going to see what happens.
Makai, not sure if you answered this, but yesterday Les Snead talked about how he has 2 kids at USC, so he got to watch you as a dad and as just a fan, and was very impressed. What does that mean to you that the Rams general manager was able to watch you on that level, and also what has your interactions been like with him?
Yeah, it definitely means a lot, you know, coming from somebody like him, so, you know, it's definitely, you know, a blessing where I could just go out there, and he definitely likes what he sees, definitely, you know, I wouldn't mind being a part of that program at all.
They need a wide receiver alongside Puka and Devontae. How would you fit in that regard?
I feel like it'll be perfect fit, definitely. You know, just adding my play style, adding what I can do to the team, and then, you know, just learning from them guys. You know, they have so much, you know, production and been in the league and seen so much and did so much. So, you know, to be alongside them will mean a lot.
You don't drop the ball. How much is that a point of pride for you?
Yeah, definitely. Every time, you know, that ball in the air, definitely got to have the mentality that it's mine. You know, definitely a lot of hard work, a lot of overtime, you know, catching jugs, you know, just making sure that I'm, you know, focused every time the ball come my way.
Makai, when your combine interview at the podium went viral, did you expect that? What was kind of your reaction? The public kind of was going crazy over all of that.
Yeah, definitely. Like my main takeaway, you know, is just really a learning experience. Definitely, you know, just how I just carry myself more professionally. I definitely didn't, you know, expect, you know, to look like that, but, you know, I learned from it definitely, and you know, I just be better moving forward.
Was the intensity you showed though on your face there, is that kind of who you are on the field, and is that the type of fire you play with out there?
Yeah, you know, definitely. You know, every time, you know, when it comes to ball, you know, I just take it so serious, and I just play with like so much heart and passion. So, you know, every time that you know that type of things is brought up, you know, I definitely take it more serious.
What kind of feedback did you get from teams about that? Did they say it's fine, we don't put much stock in that, or?
Yeah, you know, I'm just out there just being myself. You know, they didn't really pay too much mind to it.
How much pride do you take in being tough and the toughness that comes in your game?
Yeah, definitely take a lot of pride, definitely. You know, you got to be real tough, you know, mentally tough, physically tough, too, you know, to play this game. So, you know, I take that at heart, definitely.
Yeah, so we jumped in a little late here. Sorry if you've been asked this, but how are the nerves? How are you feeling going into tomorrow? How'd you sleep last night?
No, I slept good last night, definitely. You know, I feel good, you know, to be out here, you know, to talk to everybody, see everybody. So it's definitely just a true blessing, and I'm cherishing every moment of it.
What are you looking forward to the most tomorrow?
That phone call, you know. I feel like, you know, it's so much, you know, anticipation and so much weight. So, you know, to have that, you know, all in, it'll be a good feeling.
What do you think about Pittsburgh, the city, hanging out with the kids today?
It was a great feeling. You know, I was once them kids, you know, definitely, you know, looking up to, you know, future NFL stars, you know. So to really be here, you know, I'm just giving back. You know, just hanging around all the kids, and then, you know, the city's beautiful.
Makai, sorry if you were asked this already, but how did your pre-draft visit in Pittsburgh go with the Steelers? Omar Khan, GM manager, said they were really impressed by you yesterday. From your side, how did you think it went?
I feel like it went good, too. You know, to really get to know me, you know, on a 30 visit. You know, it seemed genuine. You know, everybody was cool in the building. I feel like it was a great fit.
That was Makai Lemon, the USC receiver, the Biletnikoff winner this past year, and someone the Steelers have kept their eye on. Obviously a top 30 visit. Both sides said it went well. An interesting prospect because it feels like the way that there's going to be a run on receivers tonight, or at least it's anticipated to be, if they want him, they might have to go up and get him.
They might, and there's kind of the tiers of receivers in this first round especially are really interesting this year, because you have your top quote-unquote 3 guys, the Carnell Tate, the Makai Lemons, and the Jordan Tyson. Those 3 guys are, you know, 1, 2, 3. It does seem like Tate seems to be at the front of those 3, but a lot of draft analysts nationally are saying, you know, hey, there could kind of be any sort of mix of any of those guys depending on a team's need, depending on what the team is looking for in that receiver compared to what they already have in their room. Lemon is a very interesting guy, though, because he is that you heard him talk about that toughness. You heard about that passion, that fire he plays with. That is a massive part of his game, because he doesn't have these necessarily top tier traits necessarily that people look at and say, okay, can they identify a little more in Carnell Tate? But he is a guy that is not going to drop the ball. He's going to create separation, and he is going to make your quarterback better. He's always that was kind of his mantra at USC a little bit. He's always where his quarterback needed him to be. He was going to make those big plays in those big moments, and it was one of those, hey, you could throw this up to him, and my guy's going to be better than your guy. I'm going to be able to beat you. He's going to be able to come down in those contested catches, make those big plays. But you're right. Lemon just unfortunately seems like he might be out of the Steelers' reach. Seems like he's probably going top 15, if not top 10, maybe 11, right, kind of outside that range there. So to me, they might have to trade up for him. But it was interesting again how he was one of their first-round picks. One of their top 30 visits that is projected to be a first-round pick. A lot of those top 30 visits were mid to late-round guys.
And you heard Chris talk about it earlier. I mean, he's what Chris feels is the guy you go up to get to be your star. And those within range receivers like the Denzel Bostons, the Omar Coopers, the Casey Concepcions are great receivers, but Chris kind of feels like Makai Lemon is up here. Jordan Tyson is up here. You'll have to go up and get them if you want them. But again, going back to what Doug says, if it's going to cost you your first-round pick next year, then maybe you do stay put for maybe these receivers that are a bit in reach. One of the questions that I have about Makai Lemon, I mean, he's pretty much a pure slot receiver at this point, and his size, you understand that. 5'11", he's clocked at 5'11". And Mike McCarthy earlier this week, and I actually think we have the sound on this as well, was asked what he's looking for in a receiver, and the answer was pretty lengthy for Mike McCarthy and pretty interesting, and can kind of give you some context as to what the Steelers could be looking for in a position like that.
Well, I mean, I think, number one, it's just, again, you start with the physical traits, the play inside and outside. I think historically, when you talk about a slot receiver, the first thing you think about, can the guy run an option route? Because that's really what slot receivers were known for. In my experience, I've always looked for the guy that was athletic enough and had the ability to win outside the numbers. We call it the Audubon, the ability to win out there and then transfer that size and skill set inside, because I think there's a huge benefit to that, because he is capable to do more and frankly, hopefully be a good option receiver, because that's a big part of playing in the number 2 and 3 spot. But I just never ever viewed having a smaller receiver just to run slot plays. I don't like to play that way, or I don't play that way, frankly, and because our offensive system is built around making a quarterback successful, and when you have to run concepts in the pass game dictated on this receiver can do this and this receiver can do that, then you don't have the ability to move around them as much. So when you can move players around, now you challenge the defense and you can create more matchups and you keep things simpler for the quarterback. So sorry for the long answer, but that's how I view the slot.
That's one of the things I'm learning about Mike McCarthy is when you ask him about something he's passionate about, he will, which is great for us. Like, we love that. We'll answer in great detail like that. But I don't know if it's reading too much into it, but taking that answer and looking at Makai Lemon, again, probably a true slot receiver. I mean, Mike McCarthy says right there, I don't believe in taking a guy just to play slot. He needs to be able to do both.
And when you look back at his offense in Green Bay and his offense in Dallas, it is kind of a little bit more of that versatile. They have those guys who are very versatile. The receivers, you're going to put DK Metcalf on the outside and let him win in one-on-one situations, but you're also going to find opportunities for him to be in the slot and to catch passes over the middle and kind of on those in routes. So I think there's a lot of options in terms of what you can look to do, but you're right. I don't think the Steelers are going to necessarily target a guy to just be one position. I'm sure in their conversations with Lemon, they've had, said, hey, where can you be? Can we move you around? How can we utilize you? But he is going to be, seemingly, you're going to want a guy that's a little more versatile that can play in any of the 3 X, Y, or Z receiver spots on the field to be able to really have that complement to what this offense is going to want to look to as a whole. Now, let's talk Jordan Tyson.
Because that's someone that is that versatile receiver.
And of course, I think the big talking point with him playing at Arizona State under receivers coach Hines Ward, that was, we love our Pittsburgh connections, as we always say. But you had the chance to talk with him at this prospects clinic as well and get a lot of insight there.
How did you develop that versatility in your game?
I was always short. My sophomore year, I was 5'4". So I was just playing slot, and then I grew, and then I was able to play slot and outside.
Jordan, what is Hines Ward talking about this city?
A lot. I didn't know, what to expect when I really came here, what it was like, what it looked like, but on the plane ride over here, the city looked pretty nice, so that was cool to see. But he's told me a lot, for sure.
Has he told you about the Steelers organization and if you end up there?
Briefly.
Jordan, where would you...
Positive, for sure. He did 14 years. Yeah.
Where would you preferably want to line up if you were to go to an NFL team? Inside, outside? I know you said you can do all things, but in a dream scenario, what would it be? X, Z, Y, where?
Z, and then probably just like move me into the slide or whatever. That's what I did this year.
Yeah.
If drafted by the Steelers, how versatile would it be to learn from DK Metcalf and Michael Pittman?
It'd be amazing. They've great players, been there, done that. Have definitely made an impact on the league. So definitely just seeing their every move and seeing how they handle their business, that'll be amazing.
What was the biggest thing you took from Hines Ward that you added into your game specifically?
I just say being a pro, like being regimen-based, just knowing what you're going to do week-to-week basis and just having a set regimen that you can rely on.
What are your thoughts on the city, first time here hanging out with the kids today?
It's nice. It's way better than I expected, to be honest. Not saying I thought it was bad, but it's actually pretty good.
What were your thoughts coming into this without seeing it?
I thought it was going to be like a little old, no disrespect, but it's nice. It's pretty new, pretty urban, and got a nice little city.
Jordan Tyson, one of the new Pittsburgh believers after not knowing really what to expect. But, you talk about that versatility that Mike McCarthy said himself is what he looks for specifically in a receiver. That is Jordan Tyson. However, that is another guy that the Steelers will overwhelmingly, almost certainly have to go up and get if they want him, or potentially just be completely out of range.
And I completely see, truthfully, him going to the New York Giants just based on all of the moves.
They're at 10.
They now said at 10 because of the Dexter Lawrence trade, and as soon as that trade happened, everybody immediately, all of the national mocks said, Jordan Tyson fits right in there. Another weapon for Jackson Dart for the Giants, excuse me. But to me, he would be a very interesting fit. I just truthfully don't think he's going to be in range. So again, now you look at, okay, if those top three receivers, Carnell Tate, Makai Lemon, and Jordan Tyson are off the board, then you look more at these mid to late first round guys, depending on when the run of receivers really starts to go with those receiver needy teams, the Saints, the Jets, and where the Steelers potentially look to move. But guy like Denzel Boston, a guy like Omar Cooper Jr., those players to me seem a little more, hey, the Steelers really seem to have a keen eye on these guys as well, and those could be very good fits with what they want to do, especially Cooper Jr.
Yes, I think he's a really great option for the Steelers. Not tipping my hand for our final segment where we give our predictions. But, I mean, it is very rare, unless you have maybe like consensus, like 1 and 2 picks, to see mock drafts agree. I mean, you can look at 20 mock drafts of the first round and have all different combinations, and that's exactly what you will see. But I saw more frequently than not, probably 80% of the mock drafts had Carnell Tate going to the Browns. So you figure he's gone. That's very early on. Jordan Tyson is gone with the Giants at 10. Makai Lemon, again, could fall in that, 12, 13 range, which is if the Steelers are going to trade up. That might be the range that you're thinking about. But again, does he match exactly what Mike McCarthy wants in a receiver? So I do think you look at those three names, Boston, Cooper, Concepcion, and that's where the Steelers might fall tonight.
And that seems right in that range. Well, we're going to take a break. When we come back, Alan Saunders from our partners at Sports Now Group joins us. We'll have more receiver talk with him, of course, and all the fun things ahead as we are getting you set for the NFL Draft. This is Inside the Draft, live from Steelers headquarters. We'll be right back.
I'm Channel 11 Morning News anchor Liz Kilmer. Paying for food, transportation, and housing, it all adds up, and taking care of your family can feel harder than ever. But that's why we have consumer advisor Clark Howard. Clark knows the market, has the deals, and shares ways that you can save money. He also alerts you to scams so you don't get ripped off. Clark Howard helps you save more, spend less, and avoid scams on Channel 11 Morning News.
First thing when you wake up, Channel 11 Morning News is live to get you ready for the day.
Good morning. Thanks so much for watching.
4:30 to 7 a.m. every weekday. Jennifer Tomazik and Liz Kilmer constantly update breaking and local news.
We are starting the morning with breaking news.
Scott Harbaugh's forecast helps you plan your day. Tricia Pittman gets you around traffic backups. And Clark Howard saves you money.
Now this is a great deal.
Get ready for the day with Channel 11 Morning News. Channel 11 News, live at 4, 5, and 6. The biggest local stories from neighborhood to neighborhood, impacting you the most. Breaking news. First, the experienced team asking tough questions, digging for answers, and getting the facts to keep you informed and safe. Every day, count on Channel 11 News at 4, 5, and 6.
When weather's on the way, Severe Weather Team 11's priority is to keep you safe. Storms can bring heavy rain, hail, and strong winds, so it's important for us to get it right. Our experienced team tracks the specific timing of storms and potential impact where you live. With us, when it's urgent, you will know, and we'll constantly keep you updated.
When weather is on the way, count on Severe Weather Team 11 on Channel 11 News.
And welcome back to Inside the Draft. I'm Jenna Harner. She's Shelby Cassesi. And we are joined by Alan Saunders, friend of the show, of course, from our partners at Sports Now Group. We asked Chris Carter this earlier, so I feel like it's only appropriate to ask you, are you thrilled to not have to do another mock draft, or will you be doing a mock draft for the next couple rounds after tonight?
I will do a mock draft for the next couple rounds after tonight. So, yeah, I've got one more in me. And then we'll take a break, at least until Sunday or so.
Oh, so you are a 2027 mock drafter?
I'm not. I haven't always been, but I mean, I think we probably are this year. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. A good tidbit on what to expect on Sports Now.
What to expect next year. We're very excited. Obviously, an incredibly exciting night here. We're getting ready. What are we now? Just over 4.5 hours away from round one of the NFL draft. And this year to me feels so interesting. This year to me feels like we don't know the direction the Steelers are going to go. You don't know the direction a lot of the teams, truthfully, are going to go. From your conversations, I mean, you've been at all of the big events. You've been at the Combine, NFL owners meetings. Where do you get the sense the Steelers are going to go with this first overall pick tonight?
It's very interesting because they see this as a draft for some skill position guys at the top. I think they have a lot of interest in wide receiver. I think they have a lot of interest in defensive back. We probably have not spent enough time talking about their interest in defensive back. And I was just at some events with some national media folks in town, and it seems like their perspective is offensive line. And I don't get that sense from here. So it's very interesting that's sort of even among the sort of different circles of media, we've got different impressions. Yeah. I think it's a really difficult draft to project. I finished my final mock draft, and it's hard. I talk to people in other teams. They don't really know what's going to happen. Nobody seems to know what's going to happen. Yeah. So I think it's very much a if-then sort of process, as opposed to who are the Steelers going to draft? Everybody wants to know. Everybody I see, I'm running to my cousin the other day, he's like, who are they going to draft? They don't know.
Right.
I don't know. They don't know.
Yeah.
So I think it's very much a part of the process, and we'll see how it goes.
Obviously, as you mentioned, receiver being one of the big marquee position groups that the Steelers are looking at. You just heard us talking about what this group looks like, how the board may fall. Who do you think in that group is the best fit positionally and also the most likely reach for the Steelers?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jordan Tyson is probably, for me, one of the best players in this entire draft class. Yeah. He will not get to the Steelers at 21, but he might get to trade up range, somewhere. I would say anywhere past 10, 11, the Steelers could theoretically get to. The Cowboys don't have a pick after 20 for a long way. They're trying to get a day 2 pick. They could move down from 12. The Bucks at 15 are an option to move down. And so I think they could get to, if he could get there could be a trade up. They will have to trade up to get him. But to me, I think he's a perfect receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He does everything Mike McCarthy talks about in terms of versatility. He's a big play guy. I think he's tough. You saw him, he has dealt with some injuries, but which you don't want to see, but also he played through them, and you can see him out there, willing his team to a game-winning drive while he's limping to get back to the huddle. And I'm like, all right, that's a wide receiver I want on my team.
Yeah. We know that. I mean, you think of Zach Frazier and him bear crawling off the field just so they didn't take it just seems like it would fit in that way. I just don't necessarily. I'm with you though. I don't know if he'll be there. He might. and that would be a very interesting.
But I think, look, they have to trade up somewhere.
Yeah.
They can't
You
make
think
12
they'll
picks.
trade up?
They have to make a trade up somewhere.
Yeah.
Or trade into 27, but that seems like it's going to be even harder than trading up. And so whether that's the first round, I don't know. In my mock draft, I had them trading up to get a second round pick. I think you can do it a number of different ways. Move up for a second first, move up in the second round. I really like the way the draft falls between picks about 20 and 60. I would want to try to get, they have 2 picks in there. I think 3 in there would be really good. So they have to trade up somewhere. And if a guy like Tyson falls to 12, 13, 14, 15, I think they would be really interested in that. But of the guys that like more likely are to be there at 21, I think Omar Cooper is probably the best fit in terms of does a little bit of everything. Seems like he really does what Mike McCarthy's looking for. And I think he more likely than not will be there at 21.
And he's really interesting, of course, because the Steelers have always seemed to have draft a guy that they brought in for a top 30 visit. He was not one of their top 30 visitors, but for a very good reason, in the fact that the new Steelers wide receivers coach just so happened to work with him when he was at IU. And of course, Frank Cignetti, who's now in the front office too, brother of Kurt Cignetti, IU's head coach, he has all the familiarity with him. So it seems like they have a lot of familiarity with Omar Cooper Jr.
Yeah, and I think you got to look at, I mean, they didn't go to very many pro days this year. They didn't go to the Senior Bowl. And so there were not a lot of opportunities for them to see guys twice. I think, you know, we do a huge interest board at SteelersNow.com, and I think there's only 7 or 8 players that they talked to twice in the whole draft class. So that combine formal that they did with him, really, I think when you're looking at like the interest level, is almost like a stand-in for what you would see like a top 30 or a head coach at a pro day in a normal year. And so I think they're interested. Obviously, they're familiar with the player, and I think he's a really good fit for what they need.
To what do you attribute such a change in their offseason approach? And we talked to Omar about it earlier this week. He kind of just said scheduling, coaching staff change. It would just kind of all happened at once. But this is extremely different than what we've seen the Steelers do, not just during the Omar Khan era, but predating him.
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of unique situations, right? Mike McCarthy got hired in the middle of the Senior Bowl. I flew back from Mobile to be at his press conference. And so, I mean, that's...
In the snowstorm.
Yeah, that's
right.
That's something that's never going to happen again.
Yeah.
But in terms of the pro days, yeah, I think there were some extenuating circumstances along the way. I also don't expect Mike McCarthy to be anywhere near as involved in that process as Mike Tomlin was.
Yeah.
It would be hard to be as involved as Mike Tomlin was because he was clearly one of 32 in that area, but I think you're going to see a different process that relies more on the scouts, more on Andy Weidel, who I think has done a really good job in his role in terms of getting to know these guys and be a little bit more selective about not maybe necessarily who the head coach and the GM see, but how many times they really need to see these guys. I don't think they feel the need to be as involved that way as they were before.
You mentioned your conversations with national analysts and how a lot of them seem to be leaning toward that offensive line mentality, but you said you don't get the sense that that's the case. Why is that?
I don't think there's a freak out in the Steelers front office about Broderick Jones the way there seems to be based on some of the national reporting. Obviously, it's a very unsettled situation. They're not sure when he's going to be back and what he's going to be like when he does come back. But I think the way Dylan Cook played down the stretch is something that a lot of people that aren't in Pittsburgh probably aren't paying attention to.
Yeah.
You know, an undrafted guy, doesn't have a big Q score exactly, but I thought he played really well. And I think, look, they spent 3 years really building the trenches. And I you know, I think they really wanted to draft a quarterback this year, and there isn't one there. And I think when they look at the way that they can set this team up for a quarterback next year, could they use another offensive lineman? Sure, but I think what they really have needed is to significantly address the wide receiver position and make that turnkey for someone that can come in 2027, or maybe it's developing Will Howard or a rookie they pick in a later round this year. Either way, to make the offense as easy as possible for a young quarterback to come into and have success. And I think you can do a lot more mileage with a wide receiver than you can with an offensive lineman.
Defensive back really seems like that position group that you can find a lot of value in tomorrow. Where do you see the Steelers going with their plethora of second-day picks, and how do you see defensive back fitting into that agenda?
Well, I'll just say I would not rule out defensive back entirely tonight.
Yeah. Okay.
I think it's certainly the third most likely position to be taken after wide receiver and offensive line, and I think there are a couple, like Jerome McCoy from Tennessee has some injury concerns. We've seen the Steelers in the past be that team that was not afraid to take a guy falling in that situation.
Right.
I think he's a top 10, 15 talent who could be there. But I think more likely, like you're saying, day 2, you know, the nice thing about what they did this offseason is I don't think there's a position they need. They have Joey Porter, Jamel Dean, Asante Samuel. That's really good 1 through 3 outside. But Brandon Eccles played well last year. You got Jalen Ramsey who can play all 3 positions. You got Brisker. You got Deshaun Elliott coming back. So I think it's just, hey, whatever kind of good young defensive back. The one thing I think they are lacking is like, Joey's a big physical guy. They got Jamel Dean who kind of matches that, where I think they need some speed. I think they need a burner in that secondary. So somebody that can really run, who you can put on a guy like Zay Flowers and say, okay, here he is, man-to-man, you got it. Because those big guys, they don't want to handle that little shifty guy. And so I think that's probably the one thing they don't have and I think they'll be looking for. But it could come in a bunch of different packages. I really like Keontae Scott, the slot corner from Miami, but it could be a safety, it could be an outside guy. I think it could kind of come anywhere.
You and Chris Carter on the same page there.
Yes.
Which I feel like that's you're 2 of the most trustworthy minds.
Yes.
So we love that you're both on the same page in that way. I am interested too because again they did so much in free agency to address a lot. Obviously there still are a couple holes that they seemingly need to address when it comes to guys that they're drafting, but it feels like they take care of receiver, they get a nose tackle, they add, you know, some form of offensive lineman, whether it's a guard or a tackle. It feels like they can get back to the way that we know the Steelers want to draft, which is simply just best available.
I think when you look at when the Steelers have been their very best, it's been drafting guys a year before they need them. And like, I think they could use a nose tackle. I'm much more interested in drafting Cam Hayward's replacement a year ahead of time. Now, like, I think Derek Harmon is going to be eventually Cam Hayward's, but I'm talking about, like, on this roster. So, like, you've got Cam and Derek and Keanu Benton right now. Next year, okay, I would not be planning on a next year for Cam Hayward at this point in his career. I don't know what his thoughts are, but if I'm the Steelers, I'm at least going to insulate myself from that and say, okay, Sebastian Joseph Day is one of the most underrated signings of this offseason for the Steelers. They do not need a defensive tackle to play this year, but I still think it could be a very good pick for them moving forward. I marked Darrell Jackson Jr. from Florida State to them. I really like him, but someone like that in day 2 I think makes a lot of sense. Same thing with all of the secondary positions. They don't need any of those guys this year, but Brisker's a 1-year deal. Ramsey's not getting any younger. You know, we haven't seen Deshaun Elliott in this defense. He's had some schemes where he's been a really good fit in and others where, like, it hasn't really worked out that well. So, I mean, I think there's lots of places where they can, and linebacker, Patrick Queen going into last year of his deal. That's a position where they could I could very easily see them using a day 2 pick on someone this year who may not even play, but set them up for that position in the future. And I always tell people, it's like, Troy Polamalu didn't play as a rookie. Cam Hayward didn't play until his 3rd year. Like, that's when the Steelers have been their best, is when they're drafting those needs ahead of time.
I want to follow up on the Cam Hayward comment that you just made. Why do you feel, aside from the obvious of being his age, why do you feel it could be the last year for Cam Hayward if he plays at the level we've grown accustomed to these last few years?
I mean, I'm not saying he can't keep playing for many years if he wants to. I'm just saying if I'm the Steelers, I'm going to look at his age. It seems like the way they've renegotiated his contract 3 years in a row. It's almost like it's sort of been a year-to-year thing. And so I think that's, if you're in a year-to-year situation, I think you should be doing your due diligence and almost saying, okay, like, where's the replacement come? And if you accidentally draft too many, like, like that's not the worst problem in the world to have. And so, and Keanu Benton's contract's coming up, and so that's not the certain thing either. I think they really want to re-sign him, but obviously, you know, that's probably not going to be done until August or September, and so. Yeah, I think D-tackle is a position they could definitely continue to add to.
Looking at, I should say, from rounds 3 on, where do you feel is the most depth in this year's draft class? Because I know the conversation around tight end has been very interesting, and I think a lot of people will look at the Steelers roster and say, I don't know if they need, I mean, you need to add one, but, like, why would they need to add one? But it doesn't feel like there's a ton between, you know, maybe the top 3 guys from 3 down. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of, okay, there's a bad tight end in this year's draft class.
No, there's no top. I mean, Kenyon Sadiq is the only guy in the first round. Eli Stowers might be the only guy on day 2. But I do like the day 3 tight end. I think linebacker is probably the deepest position in this class, like round 1 through 7. You can get playmakers. Honestly, even guys that like might go undrafted, I think, are still going to be really good. I think you can always find wide receiver is really deep too. Like, this is a class where the Steelers could go back to wide receiver 2 or 3 times. They need a punt returner. They need a kickoff returner. Those aren't always the same guys. And so I think you could see them going back and back. Like a guy like Kalen Witchen from Iowa, who's just like a, he didn't even really play wide receiver. Iowa still just catching on to the concept of wide receiver.
But we love it.
He's more of like a gadget guy, right? But he's a really good kickoff returner. And so, they have those 3 7th-round picks. They're just sort of like throwing darts at the wall anyways. Like, why not take one? And they could, I think a quarterback on day 3 has good value also. We talked a lot about how there's no quarterback. They want to win this year. But I think by the time you get to day 3, I do think there are enough guys that are interesting enough that there will be someone there to take.
I think people might forget, too, that Connor Hayward's gone. Jonnu Smith is gone. So, I mean, what was last year a surplus of tight ends, probably too many tight ends, too many cooks in the kitchen, is now just Darnell Washington and Pat Freiermuth. How do you feel the tight end fits into this new offense coming in? Because it's obviously going to be a lot different than what Arthur Smith drew up for his group of tight ends.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of 11 personnel. I think we're going to see a lot of one tight end on the field. And I think in terms of, like, guys you want to play this year, Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington are probably going to be more than enough. But you can't go into the year with 2 tight ends. You need a backup, and probably someone, I think, who can. The other thing about those 2 guys that's so interesting is they really can't do each other's jobs. Pat Freiermuth is a really good athlete, a good route runner. He's really good against zone defense. Darnell Washington is this incredible blocker, but also this like huge physical presence, that just a red zone weapon, and so you need at least one of them to be able to have a backup on the roster. And so whether it's a blocking guy, I know Will Kickmerrick from Ohio State is a guy they brought in for a visit. He's like a 6th-round pick. Anytime you see a 6th-round pick come in for a visit, you're like, all right, they really like that one.
Really like this guy.
And so I think he's an opera, but it could be more of a receiving threat as well, or someone who's completely different, like a guy like Riley Nowakowski from Indiana, who would be just more like a Connor Hayward replacement, who's going to play special teams, going to play fullback, going to play some H-back, do some of those things. You could go get that guy as well.
They're going to need the new tush-push guy, or sorry, the Steelers shove.
Yeah.
What were we calling it?
I didn't think about it in that. The brother, no, not the brotherly
Pittsburgh
shove.
plunge.
The Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh plunge. Was that Brian Backo that coined that one?
I'm not sure.
Did
it
you
got
coin
around.
that?
No, it wasn't me.
Okay. Someone on the Steelers.
I think it might have been Brian Backo.
I think that might have been. We're going to give credit where credit's due.
Pittsburgh
Brian.
plunge is a good one.
The Pittsburgh plunge.
I was thinking brotherly shove when Cam Hayward.
That was
filled
okay.
in,
That's right.
on the tush push, and it was Connor and Cam had some words on the sideline because Cam didn't do a serviceable job.
As brothers do. As brothers do. We are going to put you on the spot, as we have with our other guests. What are the Steelers doing tonight? Who are they selecting with whatever pick they select?
I will say they're going to stay at 21 and take Omar Cooper Jr.
Ooh,
okay.
That seems it's a very consensus. Very consensus.
Who else picked that?
We haven't given them yet.
No, but that's my pick as well.
Yeah,
that's my pick as well.
Very big topic of conversation. Well, Alan, thank you so much for all of your area of expertise. We're thrilled to have you here. You'll be here tonight, correct? You'll be here with us at Steelers headquarters.
We'll see you for steak dinner.
Yes, we can't wait. Thank you for joining us. We're going to take one final break, and when we come back, Shelby and I are going to give our predictions, break down everything, and get you set for round 1 of the NFL draft. Don't go anywhere. This is Inside the Draft.
I'm Channel 11 Morning News anchor Liz Kilmer. Paying for food, transportation, and housing, it all adds up. And taking care of your family can feel harder than ever. But that's why we have consumer advisor Clark Howard. Clark knows the market, has the deals, and shares ways that you can save money. He also alerts you to scams so you don't get ripped off. Clark Howard helps you save more, spend less, and avoid scams on Channel 11 Morning News.
First thing when you wake up, Channel 11 Morning News is live to get you ready for the day.
Good morning. Thanks so much for watching.
4:30 to 7 a.m. every weekday. Jennifer Tomazik and Liz Kilmer constantly update breaking and local news.
We are starting the morning with breaking news.
Scott Harbaugh's forecast helps you plan your day. Tricia Pittman gets you around traffic backups. And Clark Howard saves you money.
Now this is a great deal.
Get ready for the day with Channel 11 Morning News. Channel 11 News, live at 4, 5, and 6. The biggest local stories from neighborhood to neighborhood, impacting you the most. Breaking news. First, the experienced team asking tough questions, digging for answers, and getting the facts to keep you informed and safe. Every day, count on Channel 11 News at 4, 5, and 6.
When weather's on the way, Severe Weather Team 11's priority is to keep you safe. Storms can bring heavy rain, hail, and strong winds, so it's important for us to get it right. Our experienced team tracks the specific timing of storms and potential impact where you live. With us, when it's urgent, you will know, and we'll constantly keep you updated.
When weather is on the way, count on Severe Weather Team 11 on Channel 11 News.
And welcome to Inside the Draft. I'm Jenna Harner. She's Shelby Cassesi. This has been fun.
It's been so fun. This is how we talk in the WPXI sports department constantly.
In case anybody wants to just like come into the station and see, like, this is what we do on a daily basis.
Yeah.
So what better opportunity than to just bring it to the people and get to talk all about Steelers draft picks and draft prospects and everything we think is going to happen.
Our producer Dean will be like, "Can you guys fill 3 minutes?" And we're like, we filled 3 hours today.
So no problem having 3 minutes of conversation.
Or if it's like, fill a minute 20, but only one of you is talking because we can't have you both doing it at the same time.
Then it's sad. We do talk too much. But again, were you in elementary school? Did you get like talks too much on your report card?
And this is funny because we're having a baby. My husband and I are having a baby in July, and we've been purging and going through some things, and I found some elementary report cards, and it was I haven't changed much.
Oh my gosh.
We'll just put it that way. There was a lot of like yapping involved, and it loves to work within a team setting and all that good stuff. So yes,
look at where that has us, covering sports, talking about sports,
yappers,
which we love and we get to do on a daily basis.
Yes.
So no, this has been so much fun because I think there is just so much excitement around this. And we talked with Alan, we talked with Chris. I feel like you and I have mentioned this so many times. Like, there are a number of directions the Steelers can go tonight. And I think along with the anticipation of the draft being here in Pittsburgh and everybody getting excited about, oh my gosh, well, Pittsburgh's going to be in the national spotlight. The Steelers, there's so much just anticipation for what are they going to do, who are they going to add, that it seems like, the excitement level is already here, and it just keeps ratcheting and ratcheting up.
And I think what's fun about it for a lot of people, and I said earlier, I'm a big fan of the boring draft pick, like give me the trenches guy, like spend your resources on building that up. I think for a lot of people, the fact that it could be a new weapon coming in tonight in a receiver, there could be a trade up involved. Like, this is not just your standard, all right, the Steelers got to take a lineman at 22nd, 23rd overall. There could be a lot of movement for the Steelers at any point in the weekend. They're looking to add perhaps a future #1 receiver or someone who can play alongside step by step with DK Metcalf right off the bat. And so I think that's also what's exciting about it, is because you don't know what way they're going, but it's probably going to be someone that's a member of their offense of the future or a big playmaker at some point with some movement involved too.
And we heard Alan talk about too, and this is the sense that I've been getting too, it's like this does seem to feel like this is finally the time to draft a skill player. And granted, again, if they go offensive line, which we can touch on, that might be the case. But if they go receiver, if they go DB, whether it's a corner or a safety, these guys are going to be these flashy, skilled, speedy, massive playmaking guys that are going to be creating a lot of those big highlights come Sundays, Mondays, and Thursdays, and probably this year Wednesdays.
Every day of the week. The NFL will not rest until there's 365 days of football, I swear. So,
isn't there Christmas Eve this year?
There has to be.
I think so.
There's also we'll get the schedule in May, which I'm sure we'll be diving into a lot as well. But perhaps even a Wednesday night pre-Thanksgiving game. I know they were talking about as well.
Right.
So
my one take on that, Thanksgiving Eve hockey.
That's exactly it.
Is elite.
Yes.
Don't take
that
away.
belongs to the Penguins.
Don't
in my
take
mind.
away Thanksgiving hockey.
Yeah,
please don't do that.
I'm with you.
NFL, I'm asking you, Roger Goodell. You're here in Pittsburgh, so just if you hear me and if you're tuning in, which we know you are, just please don't put the Steelers on Thanksgiving.
It is a hockey night in Pittsburgh on Wednesday nights, but I know they're a little bit of a sore subject right now. So
we're just we'll push past the Penguins. Maybe, hopefully, they can get one win.
Yeah,
one win in the series to save and salvage the series after going down 3-0 to the Flyers last night. But that's neither here or there. Let's do some predictions.
Let's talk officially. I think we've we've leaked over the course of the last 2.5 hours, but yeah, ready to make some predictions. And for the record, Jenna and I both like each other's picks as viable options, so we both are in agreement these could work out.
Yeah, so I'll start. I think there's going to be a trade-up scenario, although after hearing Doug, I'm not sure with the price.
Right? That's the first I've heard that specific take. And for those of you that are just joining us, former general manager Doug Whaley said if the Steelers want to trade up into like the early teens area, it's going to cost them possibly their first-round pick next year, which that price feels extremely high. But
that does.
You know, there are also many trade partners that could really utilize some mid-round picks this year.
And again, teams like the Cowboys who are picking at 12, teams like the Rams who are picking at 13, teams like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers picking at 15. The Steelers would need to kind of leapfrog any of those guys if they want offensive lineman, guard, Olaiva Ioane from Penn State. I feel
You're the only one that nails the pronunciation.
Oh my gosh, I've been that. And if you look at the spelling of his name, there's no N in Olaiva, but he, at the Combine, Stacey Dales, shout out to Stacey Dales, had Venga, as people, as he goes by and has people, his nickname, people call him, do a pronouncer. So she said, can you pronounce your whole name? And then she pronounced his nickname as well. So Olaiva Ioane, the Penn State guard, we talked about him at length with Chris, but he is just such a playmaker on that offensive line. And to me, this offensive line, the Steelers have invested so much draft capital in it in the Omar Khan, Andy Weidel era. Andy Weidel, of course, being a guy who loves to build through the trenches. You look at the success the Eagles had. That was a key factor in the teams he helped build there before he came to the Steelers. To me, you are getting this team set for the quarterback of the future. To me, you are getting ready to draft a guy next year who's going to be in place and have the majority of the pieces set around him for him to succeed. And I think you need to do that by addressing the guard position. Now, a lot of things can happen. A lot of things can shake out, and maybe Ioane isn't even there when the Steelers look to pick. But I do think they'll have to get ahead of the Ravens, because we know the Ravens losing Tyler Linderbaum earlier this year. They don't love Daniel Falele. See, my pronunciation for Ioane was better than him. But I think that you're going to have to get ahead of the Ravens. However, I do think if Bain, the Miami defensive end, falls a little bit, there were, teams already knew about the incident where he was in a car accident and, some unfortunate things happened. Someone was killed in that accident. Teams knew about this, but it was put out in reports, and there have been some conversations on if that could potentially cause him to slip a little bit. And I do think the Ravens would very much want to bring in a player like that. So if it's one of those, like, if all of these things happen and it's kind of the perfect scenario, perfect storm, I could see the Steelers looking to trade up and get Ioane and add him. But again, talking with Alan too, I think they do eventually look to go receiver just based on how the board seems like it's going to shake out.
Well, to bolster your prediction, I look at a team like the Bengals. You have Joe Burrow, this immense talent. Year after year, invest in the weapons around him. And you cannot keep this guy upright. Year after year, because you lack the investment in the offensive line. And I think it's a cautionary tale almost that when you bring in even a talent like Joe Burrow, you give him the weapons. If you're not protecting him, it's a mess. And you're looking at instances where you lose him for full seasons. And so let's just make the assumption that I think everyone is that the Steelers are going to draft their potential franchise quarterback next year. You want those trenches guys in place for him. You want them to not be building the cohesion for the first time. You want these guys in place and ready for whoever that may be. And while you're at it, protect your 40-plus-year-old quarterback with the talent, in front of him, if he decides to come in for one last season as well. So I think that is an extremely viable prediction for the Steelers tonight. I think it's one that, again, people might think is the boring pick, but I think ultimately a lot of people will be happy with, one that I would love to see happen for the Steelers as well, especially considering he's probably a Raven if they don't jump them, unless, as you said, the board falls a little bit differently. But I truly do think he's a Raven if the Steelers don't jump the Ravens for him.
I keep going back to that viral video from the Ohio State, the Penn State game where, again, you learn so much from
moments like that.
Yeah, where, nobody's seemingly watching. And you just see, and again, cameras are everywhere at this point, so of course they're capturing something, but it was such a selfless moment where, he just noticed. You just saw him immediately notice, hey, this equipment staffer is struggling, pushing this cart up the ramp. And without even thinking, without even hesitating, hey, he hops over the barrier and just helps the equipment staffer push the cart. And while boos are raining down on him from Ohio State fans. So just, again, like a testament to who a person is. We've talked so much, not only on this show, but throughout the last handful of years, on the intention the Steelers front office is being they're being very intentional about bringing in not only incredibly talented players, but incredibly high character players. And I think we've seen that in a lot of the guys they've added through free agency, a lot of guys that they've brought, their last handful of draft picks. Again, this offensive line, you look at the Zach Frazier's, the Mason McCormick, the Troy Fautanu, in our conversations with them too. We only know them from what we see in the locker room and obviously what, our interactions with them, but incredibly kind, incredibly upstanding, very willing to say, hey, absolutely, what can I help you with? What questions can I answer for you? That to me just is such a testament to what this front office and organization is building. And I think that they're going to look to, any high character player, and that's why they have all these conversations with these guys. But Ioane seems to fit that mold exactly.
Yeah, and I watched his combine media availability. One of the things that stuck out to me, someone asked, and it was a little bit difficult to hear the question, but someone asked essentially, if someone were looking to learn about you, what tape would you point out? What plays would you look at? Wow. And he immediately rattled off, and I'm not going to get it exactly correct, but he says, play 45 against Northwestern. We rattled off a 15-yard run. And then play 28 a few weeks later against, another team. We did this. And you learn little small things about, but I mean, to be that detail-oriented, and you have to remember how young these guys are, how, green a lot of them are coming out of college, but that just kind of shows maybe the maturity and the self-awareness that you want in a teammate and in an offensive lineman, especially when you are working. It is such a team effort collectively across those trenches. I am fully on board with that. But if I were to go for the Steelers tonight, I am also going to pick Omar Cooper Jr. It's kind of come up as a not very original pick because I think a lot of people are settling into that. But Omar Cooper Jr., the receiver out of Indiana, obviously just won a national title with them. Fernando Mendoza comparing him to a prime Deebo Samuel, which I think the Steelers could certainly use as well. But he is primarily, it maybe goes against a little bit what the Steelers were talking about. He is primarily a slot receiver, but does possess the physical nature, does possess the ability and a little bit of the experience to play outside as well. So maybe that's an area of the game they're developing. While I don't feel he is perhaps their top receiver choice, I don't know that they are going to be able to trade up to get a guy like Jordan Tyson, who I think if they just said, okay, Pittsburgh, just have your pick of everyone. If they had the #1 pick, right, Jordan Tyson would probably be that guy for them. But I do think within range for them at 21, Omar Cooper is a very viable option. He will complement DK Metcalf extremely well. And you talk about those high character guys. I got that sense very clearly from Omar Cooper in his combine media availability. And you heard me ask it one of the media availabilities from yesterday, but I feel like these prospects get asked this so much is, what kind of player is the team that is drafting you getting? And every time he was asked this question during the course of his availability, he kind of referred to the intangibles more than the physical characteristics.
Yeah, wow.
You're talking about someone who's projected to be a first-round talent, who's compared to Deebo Samuel, who just won a national championship. And he's talking about his leadership, his ability to be a good teammate. And I think the way we've seen the Steelers maybe turn away from some of the character flaws of, you know, maybe the traditional receivers.
Yeah.
And
the George Pickens of the
George
world.
Pickens, you know, Deontay Johnson had some character issues here. And turn toward guys that precede themselves with a bit more, just a bit more of a different approach. Omar Cooper seems to fit that as well. So I think it's a schematic fit, it's a personality fit, it's a fit to where they're selecting tonight, and I think it's Omar Cooper.
And he's shown, too, he can go up and make those massive plays when his team needs to. Of course, how can you forget the Penn State catch, that unbelievable play at the end? He made some massive plays in the national championship game as well, too. So he is a guy that is a very clearly defined playmaker, and not only will make your quarterback better, but, hey, he can make a massive impact whenever asked of him on the field, whatever is asked of him. No, I love that pick, too. You and I actually, when we were kind of going through with our picks, we were like, okay, we have to go in different directions.
Yeah, but we agree.
Just said, like, well, if they can trade up for Iwana, that'll be great, but if not, it'll be Omar Cooper. So, no, we're both very much on the same page. And we're going to be here all night as well. Things are just getting started after we hop off here in just a couple minutes.
Yeah, this is really the start of our workday.
We're getting going. We're getting ready. We'll be live on Channel 11 News at 4, 4:30, 5, 6, and 6:20 for sports, I believe.
In fact, we have a live shot in 5 minutes.
We do. This will be fun.
Well, join us over on Channel 11 for that. But after that, after the live shots and before the round is underway, it is the best meal on the Steelers calendar. And kudos, credit, so much love to the cafeteria staff here at Steelers headquarters. They are so kind, and the food is amazing.
They are the nicest people, and like some of the best chefs. Because I have to say, my grandma will get very upset if I say the best chefs, but the best chefs in Pittsburgh.
There you go.
Yeah, that's the caveat. But no, Chef Kevin, Rico, Bob, all of those guys, just
I live on Bob's Wraps. But tonight is their big steak and lobster dinner that they serve for the first night of the draft. There have been years where I'm not actually down here at Steelers headquarters, but I will come down and have dinner with Jenna and then go back to the station. But tonight we'll be here for both. But yeah, looking forward to the big steak dinner, as always.
Well, we can't wait. We are looking forward to also bringing you all of the coverage. Be sure to join us at 11:15 tonight over on Channel 11. We'll have a full breakdown of what they did in the first round, as well as hearing from that first round pick. And then we'll be back here tomorrow.
Breaking all of that down.
Breaking all of it down, have some more phenomenal guests joining us. So we're 1 to 4 again right here tomorrow. Thanks so much for hanging out with us this last couple hours here. We will see you tomorrow. Have a great night. Enjoy the NFL Draft, Pittsburgh. We will see you soon. Thanks so much for joining us on Inside the Draft.
I'm Channel 11 Morning News anchor Liz Kilmer. Paying for food, transportation, and housing, it all adds up. And taking care of your family can feel harder than ever.